This is my intro music. Welcome to the video. I hope you like it lots, so don't forget to subscribe and click the thumbs up button. Now let's react.
Hello there and welcome to an episode of Something's Wrong on the Internet. Glitter and Lasers edition. For those of you who don't know, which I don't know who you would be if you're watching this, Glitter and Lasers launched a podcast last Wednesday, and the very first story, it's called Medical Detectives, and the very first story on it is Anna's own. There's a lot of problems with this podcast. A lot of it revolves around just the reliability of the players involved, that kind of a thing. I've not heard too much about Dr. Nance, like good or bad. I know she's a real popular TikTok doctor. I know some people have mentioned her a few times in the comment section because I did start doing a live react to this and did not get very far. So here we are. We're going to get through this today if it kills us and or our Sims. And that's the other thing. I'm going to be playing Sims in the background, mostly to give myself something else to focus on, because I'm having issues with the podcast because there is so much wrong. In that Anna is using the podcast as a way to rewrite her entire history on social media, up to and including like rewriting her social media origin stories, right? Now, remember, Anna ran a podcast. Anna had a blog. I'm going to do this a lot, by the way. Anna had a blog that she started in 2012, the day after she applied for The Biggest Loser and didn't succeed, right? And that's fine. There were a lot of people who applied for The Biggest Loser and didn't make it, right? So no shade there. But 2012, Anna was like, well, okay, I can't be on The Biggest Loser, so I'm going to start a health blog where I'm going to track my own health journey, where I'm going to lose weight. And she had some goals set out for herself. I think the first year, that was 2012, she started in, I don't remember exactly, but she wanted to lose about 100 pounds in 2012. And she also had a co-author on that blog whose name was Lazers. So back in 2012, Anna was just Glitter, and her co-author was Lazers. Lazers was a gentleman. He was on the blog for, I want to say, about a year, maybe a year and a half before he left. I don't know why. I have not hunted the man down. I have no desire to do so. He clearly does not want to be involved in any way, shape, or form. And so I would say just leave the man alone. But it is important that you know that when Glitter and Lasers, the blog, started, there were two people. One was Glitter, Anna, and the other one was Lasers, this gentleman, who left very early on. Anna obviously maintained the blog after that and continued calling it Glitter and Lasers. And obviously, Glitter and Lasers became Anna O'Brien, and that became her brand. Obvi. So the reason that it's important for us to remember that she had this blog from 2012. Now, she also started her Instagram in 2012, and it ran parallel with her blog. And so originally, her Instagram was started as as a side part to her blog. And it was meant to display her healthy eating, her exercising. She shared a little bit more social on her Instagram. Like she traveled places. She traveled to a couple different places. She did a lot of traveling for work early on. I believe she had a wedding early in 2012 or 2013. Anyway, it's important that we know all of this because Anna starts going out of her way to rewrite her own past via this podcast, right? Sorry. And it starts pretty early on. Now, the other thing that we need to remember is that even on her blog in her YouTube channel on 2013, and I believe on TikTok as well because it's a shorts reel, Anna posted pictures of herself as a child, and they do show that she was, even as a small child, she was, I don't know, a little bit overweight, a tiny bit, right? We give children kind of a pass when it comes to being bigger because we're always like, oh, it's baby fat, you'll grow out of it. I mean, maybe, I don't know. She wasn't like oh my God, what's wrong with you, big? But she was definitely bigger than the average child. And she shared, I think there's like 2 or 3 pictures in there that she was sharing. And in each picture, it was very clear that she was above average in size, right? Stuff that most people can relate to, right? Most of us probably, at least in America, most of us were chubby, especially during the 90s. So there's that. Look, we're not a healthy country is what I'm trying to say. And she lived in Ohio. The Midwest is not exactly known for being svelte. So anyway, but Anna herself shares this information from her past. And Anna also authored a book in 2018. Well, she published it in 2018. I believe she was writing it around 2017. That's my belief. I have no proof. But I do know in that book, she shares multiple stories about her childhood because Anna wrote that book when she was like 32, 33. So all of her life experiences in that book were from like her childhood, her early college years, and the first few years that she was working outside of college. And it's supposed to be a life experience self-help book. I mean, okay. Gonna take life advice from a 30-year-old. Knock yourselves out, but anyway. But in that book, she shares multiple stories about her childhood, even her young childhood, about her parents and her sneaking food and overeating and just everything, every story in that book, with the exception, even the wrestling story revolved around food because there was candy involved and she was selling the candy. I mean, everything in Anna's life revolves around food. And on Anna's 2012 blog, she does out and out admit that she's a food addict, that she has trigger foods, that she has a hard time resisting her trigger foods. She has at least 2 stories where she just was having the hardest time saying no to herself when it came to a food craving. Also, one of the first times we see her have like a meltdown over not being able to get a food that she wants occurs during that blog. She flies out to Texas and she was going to get queso dip, and the place was closed when she got there. So she like had a minor tantrum about not being able to get queso and how she had starved herself all day so she could eat the queso. It's just one of those kind of situations. My point is we have quite a bit of Anna provided stories from Anna's past. And this is important, especially during the first 20-ish minutes of the podcast, which I will admit are the only 20 minutes I've gotten through, hence the game. Because it's in those 20 minutes that she really tries her hardest to build a narrative for herself as this abused, neglected, and just, overweight child that no one understood and everyone just thought was just fat and no one questioned whether or not there was something wrong with her or not. A, it was the 90s. B, other little details to remember. Anna was raised Mormon. Like, I don't know how devoutly Mormon she was raised, but it was devout enough that her brother got married in the temple. So it was kind of a big deal. I'm not Mormon, I guess. I don't know. It seems like a big deal. Anyway, my point is her mom was Mormon, her father was Mormon, and Anna tells a story very early on in this podcast about going to a sketchy doctor in a back alley, and the doctor starts questioning her about her health at 8 years old. Mind you, her mother is present because her mother took her there. So why isn't the doctor asking her mother about her history? And then proceeds to put her on fen-phen. And if you don't know what fen-phen is, I'll put a link in the description down below, and we'll probably discuss it a little bit when we get there. But fen-phen was a weight loss drug that was on the market during the 90s. It got introduced into the public market around 90 and ran until 97 when it got pulled because it was linked to many, many problems, some of which were permanent problems for people. So they yanked it out of the market. I remember fen-phen. We didn't take fen-phen. I remember fen-phen. That's how bad it was. Anyway, Anna tries to tell a story where she's 8 years old. She gets put on fen-phen by this back alley doctor that her mother has found in the shady, shady world of Podunk, Ohio. But But there's problems with the story. First off, Anna's 8. She's getting prescribed this in 91. The drug's only been on the market for like roughly a year. It's not meant to be, it literally is not meant to be prescribed to children under the age of, I think 16 was the cutoff when it was originally put on the market. So already this doctor would have been severely breaking the law, like risking his license by prescribing this to Anna. The other problem with this is fen-phen's one of the reasons why fen-phen was so potent, I guess is the word, is because it was a massive stimulant. The side effect is a massive stimulant. Mormons, from my understanding, do not approve of the use of stimulants. It's why they can't have caffeine, which is why a lot of them don't drink coffee and they don't drink caffeinated drinks. And that's why they have all of these like really cool mixed, non-caffeinated mixed drinks that are just like delicious. But that's why they do that, because they can't have caffeine. So cool, whatever. But fen-phen is like it's like the ultimate stimulant, right? So her devoutly Mormon parents took her to a back alley doctor, again, in the middle of Podunk, Ohio, at 8 years old to put her on fen-phen because she was overweight. And the other problem with this story is her mother and her older sister both passed away from obesity-related complications, right? And she opens up about this when she was applying for Biggest Loser. And her mother would have been the overweight one. Her mother would have been overweight when she took Anna to go see this doctor. Like that, timeline wise, her mother would have been overweight. I don't know so much about her older sister because Anna does mention that her sister was like a track star or something like that. But her sister ran track. Her sister was athletic. So was her brother. He did wrestling. Her sister, I think, did track. I think that they both did like a couple different sports. Not unusual. It also doesn't necessarily mean that they were like, the thinnest of the thins. Like you can be rather large and still play high school level sports, right? It's just the way of the world, especially in the Midwest. But that being said, like, why would her obese mother take Anna, who as I said, she was a larger child, but she wasn't like that big, right? Not out of the norm large, especially again for the Midwest. I know I keep saying that, but it is important to caveat that. What we consider large in the Midwest is not what the coasts. I get the feeling sometimes that the coastal states don't understand that there's a big chunk of the middle of the country that isn't like the rest of isn't like the coastal cities. Y'all understand. Y'all understand there's a middle part of the country, right? It's just like I get that feeling sometimes. Anyway, but yeah, so there's so many little things in Anna's story just don't add up. And as a child of the 90s myself, there's not a massive age difference between Anna and I. Anna would be the early end of the millennials, the first wave of millennials, and I would be the tail end of Gen X. Like I am that silent cusp generation between Gen X and millennials, right? So there's not a huge age gap between Anna and I. I have coffee to keep me focused because I swear to God, we're doing this today. I don't know how long this is going to take, but we're here. I have a live that I have to go do at 4 p.m. and that's going to be our stopping point. Anyway, why we're playing The Sims. I need something to keep me distracted so that I don't stop every 2 seconds to make a comment on Anna's podcast, because we will literally never get through it if I do. I haven't even gotten to any of the medical stuff. And when we get to the medical stuff, I'll be switching away from Anna's own words. Actually, I'll probably still be using Anna's own words, but less. And I'll be switching over to the work that Colin Mockery has done over the past months now, with the International Lipedema Society, which I think it's society might be it. Anyway, we'll get to that when we get to it. But Colin not only secured the lipedema regulation treatments from them. Now, this is a committee of 60 world-renowned doctors on the topic of lipedema and obesity that were brought together to create basically treatment standards for lipedema. And every country was represented except I think America. I don't know if America was not invited. I don't know if he did invite American doctors and they just chose not to go. But the international standards for the treatment of lipedema are vastly different from the American treatments for lipedema, which those were mostly written by Karen Herbst and a handful of other doctors who were mostly like liposuction doctors and holistic doctors and people who are not medical doctors, right? So what we have, honestly, is like the US standards for lipedema and everyone else's. And our standards for lipedema are very different than the international standards. And Colin not only went over that in this beautiful documentary that he did. It is 3.5 hours, but I highly recommend watching it. Honestly, once you start watching it, you won't realize how much time's going by because it's that well done. But then he also was able to secure an interview with Dr. Bertsch, who was the head of the committee that put together the lipedema, the international lipedema treatments. He himself also is a well-known and respected lipedema doctor. He's German, very German. And so he does not like Karen Herbst. It is a very it is a very German way of not liking Karen Herbst. I love it. I absolutely love it. Anyway, but when we get to that part, I'm just assuming we get to that part. We will discuss that when we get there. Now, I know God and everyone has done a reaction of some variety to this podcast. I know I am the last person to put something out. I have not watched anything. And the other reason why I want to do this is because I am dying to watch some of these other reactions, because I know that Chikara Transformations put out like a 3-part reaction to this that I would love to watch. I know that Lindsay, another smaller channel that I'm really enjoying, she put out some smaller videos, but several videos reacting to this. I know on my own Discord, it's not my Discord, it's Nerfy's Discord, but I'm on it. But there have been screenshots of comments that have been left underneath the podcast episode that I don't think are hateful, but they are definitely questioning the validity of Anna's story and of the podcast in general because of Anna's story. But they have all been deleted within 24 hours of being posted. So there's, as of my last checking, there was like 200 and some change comments. And I know that many of those those are all curated comments. All of those comments are either things like, oh my God, this is the best podcast ever, or oh my God, Anna, you're such a brave, brave queen, yes, and other shit like that. Like, it's all ass kissing in the comments section. There isn't a single one of those comments that is even remotely like, that doesn't sound quite right to me. There's none of that. So the podcast itself is not allowing for dissent, which isn't surprising. We know Anna heavily curates her comments sections, less so on YouTube, where she just has stopped allowing people to comment. You just can't comment anymore. Good move, Anna. But anyway, that's the thing. All right, so I think I've done enough preamble. Let's get into this. I guess if you're interested in the game we're playing, it is a scenario. But I'm doing the scenario in order to set up a generations challenge that I haven't quite figured out what I'm going to do with that yet. But there we are. So we're trying to finish the curious. I think it's called Stuck in Their Shadows, and so I've still got like most of that to do. Yeah. Anyway, we'll get to that when we get to it. Hopefully, it won't be too terribly distracting for everybody. But I know people like watching The Sims. And there's no video. That's the other reason. There's no video to this. It's all audio. So it's another thing. It's something for you guys to just kind of watch while the audio's playing. So, all right. I do have Anna sped up to time and a quarter. I just listened to everything that fast. Honestly, if I wasn't recording this, I would probably be listening at a time and a half. But here we are. So she is a little fast if you listen to this at normal speed. Just FYI. And the podcast sounds very quiet to me. I don't know if that's going to translate through to you guys. Let me double check my sound settings, but yeah, so the podcast itself is very quiet. The audio one, it's very quiet, and I'm not entirely sure why. That might be a me problem. Sorry about the throat clearing. It is what it is. So I'm going to turn it up a little bit on my end so I can hear them, but hopefully it won't be too big of an issue with the playback. I think I've done enough rambling at this point. I'm going to size everybody down so we can do what we're going to do, and let's get into this story. All right, here we go. Anna's story. Welcome to the very first episode of The Medical Detectives. In this powerful first episode, co-hosts Dr. Nance and Anna flip the script, and Dr. Nance interviews Anna about her extraordinarily health journey. Anna spent years struggling in her body, before finally deciding to get help, which sent her on a whole other journey trying to crack the mystery of her diagnosis. Bum, bum, bum. Anna opens up about her experience with confronting medical bias, navigating being a public figure while living with a chronic illness. It's so... Anyway, and grappling with the shame that often comes with living in a bigger body. I know I'm shamed every day. Discovering how she overcame shame, fear, and repeated misdiagnoses to finally find compassionate healthcare providers who looked beyond her size. If you've ever felt dismissed or misunderstood on your own path to wellness, Anna's story will bring you hope and validation. Tune in for an honest conversation about women's health, body acceptance, and the power of self-advocacy, plus the surprising twist and setbacks that make Anna's story one you won't want to miss. This is ridiculous. Anyway, so there it is. I don't know how Dr. Nance and Anna got together to decide to do a medical detectives podcast of all things. I do know Medical Detectives has a sister podcast called Dating Detectives, and this is my guess. I have nothing to back this up. My guess is that the producer of Dating Detectives somehow connected the two of these together and decided to do this Medical Mysteries podcast. I honestly have no idea what qualifies Anna to be on a podcast like this. And Dr. Nance is like a hand and arm doctor. Like, I'm not knocking it. It's just like her specialty is the hand and the arm. So she's not exactly like an over, like a whole body doctor or anything like that. She's not like a clinical, she doesn't do like research in that classic sense of research. I'm sure she does research for her own stuff, but it's not like she's doing like full body research or illness research or anything like that. I don't know. I guess my point is like, just because she's a doctor doesn't mean she's the right kind of doctor, I guess. I don't know. There's just a lot of questions that just don't have answers in this podcast. So that's all I've got. I don't know how they get together. I don't know how they know each other. They don't really, or I've only listened to 20 minutes of this, so they don't really talk about how they got together. It doesn't seem like a normal... I don't know why Anna would be going to Dr. Nance. I don't know. But anyway, that's the setup for this. You now know as much about it as I know. I could probably do a little bit of digging. Probably someone has done a little bit of digging. I know that Dr. Nance has come under some scrutiny because Dr. Nance has now stepped into girl world, which is never good for side characters. And that's pretty much it. All right. Right. Let's go.
Welcome to the very first episode of the Medical Detectives Podcast, where each week we'll dive into the fascinating, mysterious, and sometimes downright bizarre world of medicine, told by the people who've lived it. We're your hosts. I'm Anna O'Brien. And I'm Dr. Nance, an orthopedic surgeon with a passion for uncovering disparities in medicine. I've built a platform on bringing awareness to misdiagnosis in women and sharing stories that can hopefully help people navigate the complicated world of medicine.
And I'm Anna. I'm a creator with my own medical journey, and while Dr. Nance has all of the experience of a doctor, I know what it's like to be a patient with my own medical mystery. And I'm here to ask the questions that you, the audience, are going to be wondering.
This show is all about sharing unique medical stories that are not just fascinating, but could also be helpful, whether you're a patient, a caregiver, or just someone who loves a good mystery.
Each week we'll have a guest on the show to share their personal medical story, and we'll unpack it together. But today, for the first episode, things are a little bit different.
That's right, Anna, because for this first episode, our guest is you.
The extremely apparent rehearsed and scripted nature of that interaction is uncomfortable. Now, this is their first podcast. Their first episode. So, the first 10 episodes are usually pretty awkward. So, I have some experience with podcasting. So anyway, like the first 10-ish episodes are usually you're getting your feet under you, especially if you have multiple hosts, because especially when the hosts don't know each other, you kind of have to people start to feel each other out. I do know that the two of them are not recording in the same room. I think they Zoom called this in or something. They did something where they're recording from two separate spaces. Crap, that reminds me to do that. Anyway, but that being said, right. They're not in the same room together. So it seems even weirder to me that they're so scripted back and forth with each other. And as Anna talks more, you can clearly tell that she has prepared this and she has rehearsed this. And this is Anna's story as told by Anna, as written by Anna. It's not just organic talking. It's not like a normal interview where you sit down with somebody and you're like, here's a question. And then the person just kind of answers it ad hoc. But this is and all of these, everything has been scripted. And the few clips of video that I have seen, because apparently they did record video, they just didn't put it up with the podcast for some strange reason. When they, Anna looks like Anna always does when she's performing on a video. But the Dr. Nance, when they cut to her and she's listening to Anna talk, you can tell that Dr. Nance is doing that oh, I'm totally listening to you. Yes. I'm totally hearing everything you have to say. You can totally tell she's not paying attention. I just thought that was interesting. But anyway, back we go.
Yep, I'm in the hot seat today. So if it sounds just a little bit nervous, it's because I am. I'm representing you and your stories. And I also represent people who don't have a medical degree, who aren't going to know all of the lingo and might be a little confused along the way. I've experienced personally the hot.
You are literally not the person I want or need to guide me through the medical lingo of anything.
Highs and lows and frustrations of navigating the healthcare system. So to be the first person to kick this off kind of feels right.
Anna's story is the perfect way to kick things off. Her story is relatable, full of surprises, and I just feel so lucky she's decided to share it with us.
I just feel lucky to have the opportunity to share it because I wish stories like this were available to me on my journey. And
I feel lucky that I am able to listen to it. We are all lucky. All of us
will be. My story is about a lot of different things. The stigma plus size bodies face when receiving medical care, the body positive movement, and also being a medical mystery and what that feels like. But that's just a few of the things we'll talk about. Mine is just one of the many stories we're going to be telling on this show, and I'm really excited to be doing this with you. We just hope that this show will give people and patients a place to be seen, to find community, and learn from these incredible stories on their own medical journeys.
Absolutely. Cool. So buckle up, because this first story sets the stage
buckle
for
up,
everything.
Buttercup.
Anna, you ready to dive in?
Let's do it. Hello, Dr. Nance.
Hi, Anna. Welcome to the show.
I know. I'm a little nervous because on this first episode, it's me.
It's me.
I don't know any other podcast where the co-hosts actually interview the other co-host. So
literally every podcast with multiple co-hosts at some point, usually within the first few episodes, will interview or at least do a get to know you episode between the co-hosts. So either Dr. Nance doesn't listen to a lot of podcasts, or Dr. Nance is like Anna and she just needs to make everything seem special, which is a little concerning to me. Again, I don't know squat about Dr. Nance. I probably will later after this, but right now I just, I'm just going off of this podcast, but I don't know any other podcast where the co-hosts interview each other. Every podcast I have ever done, we interview each other in the first couple episodes, because we want the audience to know who the hosts are. Anyway, crazy talk, I know.
I'm excited.
Yeah, it's a whirlwind. I think that it is important though, because I think it makes sense as to why I'm here, right? Like obviously you make sense. You're a doctor. But why am I here? I ask
Why
that all the
are
time.
you here?
Well, I'd actually love to
Why are
start
any of
with
us
the
here?
why. Can you share your intention of sharing your story?
Yeah, so my intention with all of this, and even when this came across my plate as something potentially to do, it really is that I've been on a really long journey, right? And I would say that in some ways I'm not even at the end yet, but every step I've taken forward has significantly improved my life. And for a really long time, and we'll talk a little bit more about this when I, share my story, I was afraid to take the first step because of a lot of the noise surrounding me. And I think if I can encourage just one person to take a step towards feeling better and whatever that means for them, because it is incredibly personal, then it will have been worth it. And I think that women are, in a lot of ways, built to be afraid of medicine and doctors and seeking health. And we're sold so many other solutions that aren't really solutions, that I'm here to advocate and speak for the fact that there are doctors out there that care, and it may just take some work to find them.
Well, that's a great way to start. So you mentioned that you started to notice kind of some.
Anna has been accused recently, since this lipedema story began. Anna has been accused of doctor shopping. And partially that's because of Anna's own stories, where she talks about how she's been to so many doctors within the last few years. I'm not doubting that Anna has lipedema. I have no reason to doubt that. I don't think anyone has a reason to doubt that. And the first person who gets on here is like, lipedema is not a real thing. Stop. Anyway, that's not the issue. The issue is Anna, through her own story that she has shared since 2023 onward about her lipedema, Anna has she even has an obesity specialist that she goes to see that she's mentioned a few times. And that apparently was the doctor that diagnosed her with the lipedema, according to Anna. Anyway, Anna has never done any of the conservative treatments that even the US recommends for lipedema. Anna just immediately wanted to jump to surgery, it sounds like. And so it sounds from the past year, the 2024, that Anna just did a lot of doctor shopping until she found somebody who was willing to operate on her at her current weight, which was pretty high, and it still is pretty high. And she found Dr. Amron, and I forget the other guy's name, but he's the plastic surgeon, so he hasn't actually done anything to her yet. But anyway, she found Dr. Amron and she found Dr. Herbst this way. And both of them are just happy as clams to tell her that she has no more burnable fat on her body, that all of the fat on her body is lipedema. and there's nothing she can do aside from surgery to get rid of the lipedemic fat, which is completely and 100% counter to literally the rest of the world. So I know I'm going to keep harping on that, but we're going to keep harping on that. But anyway, the reason Anna's like, oh, you can find these compassionate, these caring doctors. Anna found doctors that were willing to tell her what she wanted to hear and were willing to operate on her at her current size. I don't honestly think that's a compassionate and caring doctor. I think that's a doctor that saw Anna's follower count, because she's done a lot of advertising for Amron and Herbst. And they also saw a bank account. Like, they didn't see Anna as a patient, in my opinion. This is my opinion. They saw Anna the bank account and Anna the influencer. And so they decided to take a risk on operating on her in the hopes that her followers would see her and see how well she improved. And they'd be like, oh, yes, I want that. Give me that thing. Because part of her storyline with Dr. Amron was literally figuring out how to get her insurance to pay for the liposuction, because liposuction is an elective surgery usually. And it wasn't really an episode about Anna's insurance paying for the liposuction. It was an episode showing how Dr. Amron's office will work with a patient in order to get their insurance to pay for his treatments, right? Kind of a, hey, you can't afford this out of pocket, but we can help you get it paid for from your insurance instead, kind of a thing. Anyway, this is why we're playing the game. See, we made it much further than we did last time.
Changes in your body. When were you aware that your body was not the same as
Body
everyone else
moving,
around you.
body moving.
So the changes in my body really started to happen around puberty. I just started to gain weight, which was kind of unusual because I was always a really active kid. Like they used to call the church doors the Anna doors.
This is the first time we've ever heard Anna talk about the Anna doors. Also, Anna's pictures from when she was younger than 8. She's still a chubby kid, right? And the whole comment of, my body started to change in puberty. No shit. Also, puberty at 8 is kind of really early. We double check that one, but I'm almost positive, like, 8's really early. Puberty for girls on average starts. I know, like, maybe I was a late bloomer. Just give me an age range. I mean, I know 8's not unimaginable. Yeah, a descriptive and analytical study from 2019 to 2020 found that 57% of girls between 8 to 10 years old experienced puberty with an average onset age of 9. Okay, so never mind. I'm wrong. It's fine. Traditionally, the average puberty onset for girls was supposed to be around 8, but early puberty is now more prevalent. Wow, all right. I was a late bloomer. There you go. Good times. Oh my God, I'm a medical miracle or medical mystery, you guys. Anyhow. Yeah, you can be neat, sure.
Because I was running in and out of them all the time, causing trouble. And I used to do this dance where I would move my feet really fast because it just had so much energy. So it was puzzling to a lot of people, how was I gaining weight? And
the first time we ever hear Anna talk about, in her book, talk about playing sports is when she's in high school, and I believe she's on the volleyball team. Yeah, she was really proud of being on the volleyball team. Did she play basketball too? I'd have to go back and double check, but I'm almost positive she was doing volleyball. I will double check that. Anyway, but we don't hear about her doing anything like active wise until around that time. Actually, in her book, she complains about being dragged around to all of her siblings' sports events and then being made to sit in the bleachers or just wandering around the school unsupervised. Again, it's the 90s. I totally believe that, by the way. Look, latchkey kids are a thing. But yeah, that's the thing. We've never heard Anna talk about being an active child before. Even in her own videos, she's never talked about being an active child. This is the first time she's ever told the story. And everything else that she has told, especially in her book, has been kind of counter to this. It's not that she described herself as being like a lethargic, lazy child. She just didn't describe herself as being active in any way, shape, or form. Like, she was being dragged around to her siblings' games where she just kind of like entertained herself because her parents were more focused on her older siblings than they were on her. That was very evident throughout her book. And then the few stories we get of her like being a child, she's usually telling a story where she's gotten in trouble with her parents. One of which she was stealing cookies. Another one landed her in what was effectively Renaissance school, which is basically where they send kids who are incredibly disruptive and basically they're juvenile delinquents, and they send them to this special school to get them out of the regular classroom. Because does that solve the problem? In the 90s, it did. And that's the other thing. Like, Anna talks about her years in school. She spent a lot of them making enemies, not being very friendly, making enemies, and being in this specialty school for troubled children, basically. So Anna's opportunities to be active, I mean, I don't know. Maybe she went home at night and ran circles around the house. I don't know. Maybe she did run in and out of the church doors at a manic pace. I don't know. This is just the first time we've ever heard her talk about it. And the other things that she has talked about are slightly counter to this. So it's just one of those things where it's just like,
thing went to like, oh, she must be eating wrong, right? So I remember around that time when I started to gain weight that my mom took me to this really shady doctor in the middle of nowhere. And I remember even as a little kid being like, this place is sketch. and went in. There was like one of those little windows that they pulled open, and I looked inside, and the woman asked me like 3 questions. Not one of them was my age or my weight or anything like that. It was literally like, do you have a heart murmur?
You're 8. Yes, you were tall, but you were not 18 years old tall at 8. The woman knew you were a child. Also, your mom is present. Again, sketch doctor in the middle of Podunk, Ohio. They are Mormon. Her mother's seeking back alley medical advice and stimulants for her overweight child when it is it's mostly probable that her mother was also overweight herself at this point.
Do you have any of these other conditions, diabetes, I think? And this is like at 8 years old. Shut the door, took me in. This older man gave me a speech about why I was awful because I was overweight. And then he wrote me a prescription for what I now know was fen-phen. So at 8 years old, I started taking fen-phen, and wild.
Fen-phen is a stimulant that was a popular kind of diet drug in the 90s, but it had significant side effects, mainly cardiac problems. So it is no longer used to treat obesity.
Let's just say that that's I mean, to look back at that now, and even to have had to do some things on my journey because of that, because now what we know what fen-phen can do to the body, there were concerns about heart issues when I was pursuing other things down the road. So I don't know why that was okay. I don't know why it was so casual.
I missed that the first 3 times I've listened to this. So Anna is setting up a excuse for heart issues that she's going to blame on fen-phen. Okay. So I missed that last time. So Anna is preparing the groundwork for a I have heart problems story, but it's not going to be because of her obesity. It's going to be because she was prescribed fen-phen when she was 8. I don't know if she's gotten to it yet or if she's going to get to it here real soon, but Anna claims that she was basically on fen-phen from 91, because I did the math, from 91 until 97 when they pulled fen-phen from the market. So Anna's getting ready to make that claim, which means from the age of 9 until the age of 15 or 16, Anna's going to claim that she was on fen-phen. And she's also going to claim that while she was on fen-phen, remember this wildly effective stimulant to the point where it was causing cardiac arrest. It was killing people. It was just straight killing people. But she's going to claim that while on fen-phen and being starved by her mother, that she was still gaining weight. Magically. She was just magically gaining weight while being on one of the strongest stimulants to ever be on the market. And also not eating anything. She's gaining weight. You would literally have to be a medical miracle, Anna. You need to be studied because you have literally broken the laws of thermodynamics. I understand that fat acceptance doesn't like that. To know that there are actual physical laws of nature that kind of affect the way everything on the planet works. I mean, I get that. I understand that you are all special, unique snowflakes that exist outside of reality. But I'm just, no, Anna, no, that is not possible. No, there is no invisible teapot floating around my head right now. Anyway. Back to my
coming to terms with why my parents thought that was okay to do. But regardless of it, I was put on that. And I lost
Who's the most interesting
weight,
sim
but
in the
not
world?
really. And I just remember during that period of my life that every once in a while I would get to eat normal food. So my mom, I remember, threw everything away in the house, had this big menagerie where everything that, in my opinion, at the time tasted good was in the garbage. We were left with brown rice, flavorless chicken, shredded wheat, and vegetables. That's it. And I remember, and I have this very vivid memory of when I was about, I want to say 10 or 11. I went to my friend Nikki S's house, and her mom made me a cheeseburger. And I remember sitting there eating that cheeseburger being like, this is the best thing I've ever had in my entire life. This cheese.
You want me to believe that at no point before the age of at least 8 did you have a cheeseburger? Stop. Also, this is one of the times where Anna tells a little too much about herself and doesn't realize it because she thinks she's doing something else here. But what she's really doing is just kind of reinforcing for those of us who watch that Anna only ever gets truly excited when it comes to food. Like, we've watched her shop at Target. We've read her blog posts, even from 2012. She only, like, that queso thing, like, she only gets excited about food. Bagelgate, the cotton candy during Bagelgate, the bagel itself. Like, there's just Anna only truly the Serrano hot dog. I know I said that wrong. That she had when she was in Tucson. God, crawl up my ass. Tucson, Arizona, when she went to go see Dr. Herbst. She was giddy about that. So the only time we ever see Anna get truly excited is when she's talking about food. And this is one of those times. If you don't follow Anna, you probably won't catch up on this. And since Anna didn't advertise, still is not advertising this podcast on anything other than Instagram, which is her smallest following. I think she mentioned it in Threads, which would actually be her smallest following. But because Anna doesn't advertise this on YouTube and she doesn't advertise it on TikTok, as far as I'm aware, so her biggest followers and her longest followers, TikTok was her first big platform, right? So she's got like 8 some odd million followers on TikTok. Anyway, my point is, she's purposefully keeping this podcast out of the purview of people who know her best as an influencer, right? Honestly, I wouldn't have known this was happening if someone who follows my show hadn't mentioned it to me in a comments section or during a live. And I was like, ooh, podcast, you say? But here we are. So yeah, Anna, well, she stopped doing her newsletter. I was surprised by that. So we don't know anything about this. It's just it's just that thing that Anna does where she's trying to bury something that she doesn't want people to know about, but that she's committed herself to talking about. Like when she was on Wegovy, or Wegovy. I really like the way it says when you say Wegovy. Anyway, she didn't mention it anywhere except on her Instagram, and even then it was buried in like the 3rd paragraph of a description that she had that had a picture that had nothing to do with weight loss. It was, I think, her surgery or something like that. Anyway, so she buries things like this as deep as she possibly can, but she does put something up so that later on she can be like, I wasn't hiding it from you guys. And it's like, you were totally hiding it from us. You were 100% hiding it. Just because you were hiding it like a Matryoshka doll doesn't mean that you weren't hiding it. Anyway, that was, I think, what I wanted to say there. Anyway.
Burger. Wow. And this, like, cheese, it wasn't even probably that good of a cheeseburger, but because I'd eaten such terrible food for like a while.
Like, we're talking In-N-Out cheeseburger or
yeah, like it was probably like McDonald's cheeseburger, but I just remember being like, oh my God. I was like, my life has forever changed. Like, music played, lights flashed. Like, it was like this amazing thing. And I didn't die.
I am in my mid-40s. I have never eaten something. I've had good food, don't get me wrong. I've had delicious food. I had an amazing steak when I was in Atlantic City. I have never had food so good that it like rivals adult fun times or anything else in my life. Like, I'm kind of jealous of people that do have that experience, only because, like, how easy is it for you to have that euphoria? But like, I personally have never, I've had good food. I've had really good food. I'm not trying to say I've never had good food. I've just never had food that has like sent me into orbit, right? It's just bizarre to me. And Anna's not the only person I hear talk about this. So I know it's like a real thing. Because like everybody on 600 Pound Life talks about it like this, you know, oh my God, food's my only friend, you know, food takes away my pain. I've never had food take away my pain. Like, unless it was literally some kind of pain relieving medicine. I was just blown away by these descriptions anyway.
There were no issues and I just had a normal day. And I remember that up until that point, I had a really weird relationship between pleasing my parents and losing weight. Like, I felt every time I got on a scale that I was a little bit of a failure because I wasn't losing as quickly as they thought I should have been losing taking fen-phen.
You're not supposed to be doing
But
this.
I was starving and still very active.
Vitamin
So
fen,
what ended up
vitamin fen.
happening is life was just kind of, bleak. And so I stopped, I would say in a little bit, I stopped being as active because I had no freaking energy. And my body started to change because I wasn't the same active person I was before. And I started to put on weight instead of losing it. And I think at this point, a lot of the articles and stuff that came out about fen-phen, we all got off of it because it wasn't legal anymore. So
Anna has literally just made the claim that she has been on fen-phen from the ages of 8 until like 15, 16. And that during that time, having been on fen-phen and being starved by her mother to the point where a Big Mac caused choirs of angels to sing, that she became so lethargic from the starvation and the stimulant that she stopped doing everything and gained weight because of that. First off, calories in, calories out. I know people hate hearing that. So the only way she could have been gaining weight on a stimulant like fen-phen, guys, I cannot stress how effective fen-phen was. There was a reason it was so popular, and it took such a long time to get it off the market. Anyway, she would have had to have been eating like a 600-pound lifer to have gained weight while A, being on fen-phen, B, being an active child, and C, starving. Her mother's starving her with brown rice and broccoli or whatever she said. So it's just, again, apparently the laws of physics don't apply to Anna at any point. She is truly a medical miracle because the laws of reality do not apply to her. Anna thinks that simply by becoming inactive, she gained weight. A lot of people have this misperception that activity level determines your fit or fatness, right? And though it is true that the amount of muscle you have, muscle does apparently burn more calories than stagnant fat, right? But to get that muscle, you typically have to work out, obviously. That's the thing. The workout itself is not what is causing any form of weight loss. And I don't even believe working out will cause weight loss. It can help maintain it once you've started it. But the only proven way to lose weight through all of these years, my entire life, has been calories in, calories out. Restriction is the only way to lose weight. So Anna wants me to believe that she was on this incredibly restrictive diet from the ages of 8 to 16-ish, and she was on fen-phen that entire time, and she was also active for at least half of that, and she was still gaining weight. It just doesn't make sense. I'm sorry, it just doesn't make sense. And I'm just calling bullshit. First off, I call bullshit that she was ever on fen-phen. And secondly, if she was, I call bullshit on this. It just does not make sense. It makes literally no sense. It's not possible. Anyway, but I guess that's the whole point of the show, the medical detectives, weird medical things, and medical mysteries, and Anna, the first ever medical mystery. Anyway, I should let her finish because I really haven't gotten, we're 9 minutes in, and I really haven't gotten past this point.
Basically, I gained a bunch of weight.
Uh-huh.
And I kind of just accepted it.
Uh-huh.
In my 20s, I moved on from my parents. I moved into a really amazing group of friends. And I think that every friend group goes through this. I mean, I hope they still don't go through it. But back when I was in my 20s, everybody went through it, which was like the collective culture where girls got together and dieted together. So we did the thing that everybody seemed to do, which was join Weight Watchers, right? We all got together. We'd go to our group meetings together. We would support each other. We'd share recipes. We'd weigh in. And honestly, I built my friendships around losing weight. And that's a really weird dynamic, right? Where that success in losing weight was also like a success of friendship. When it doesn't work for you as simple as that, it's almost like you're a failure in your friendship dynamic, which is something that I'm honestly, I don't know if I realized until I just started talking about this part of it. But I think as we fast forward and I stopped losing weight, I lost about 100 pounds that way just by literally getting active as part of this Weight Watchers group, and I would go to Soul Cycle with these girls. I would run to Soul Cycle, do 1 to 2 Soul Cycle classes, and run back. I started walking to work, so I would walk from Brooklyn to Midtown Manhattan, which is about a 4-mile walk, and I would walk there and back. And I started just becoming really, really active. Again, I never was like a binge eater or an overeater, so it kind of was like my activity just jumped up, and that's where the weight went. But then it stopped. I had lost weight and gained weight before, but this.
All right, I don't know what the editor has some really weird, very weird and very obvious sound cuts, and I don't understand it. I don't know why you wouldn't have blended those together better, but here we are. Anyway, Anna saying those things about Soul Cycle and about walking to and from work tell me exactly where in her timeline she's having this story take place. Anna, in her 2012 blog and 2013-ish, yes, was talking about, mostly in her 2012 blog, was talking about her very first time going to Soul Cycle was in 2012. She was invited there by a friend, right? And walking to and from home is something that she was doing while she was working in Manhattan at her... Was she working for Sprinkler? Yes, I think she was working for Sprinkler at the time. Which would have been her final job before she became a influencer. Anyway, she's written all of this. This is Anna's provided timeline. Anyway, the walking back and forth from work, that was one of the stories where she was talking about how she was having this craving for the orange cupcakes that Hostess makes. I think Tasty Cakes makes them too. I didn't even know Tasty Cakes was a thing until we moved to this side of the country. I thought it was a joke. Anyway, here we are. Anyway, she's talking about how she's having this massive craving for them, and she's walking home, and she almost makes it home, and she gets to that last corner store before she's home free, and she just can't resist the urge anymore, and she turns into the corner store, and she buys a package of the orange cupcakes, and she eats them on her way to her apartment. Regardless of the story or the morality of the story or whatever, the point is, that story happened in 2012. She was telling the story about 2012, which she just I was walking back and forth from work. Yeah, in 2012. You weren't doing this beforehand, because before you were applying for, in 2011, give or take, you were applying for Biggest Loser. So you might have been trying to lose weight up to that point, but your solution was to get on Biggest Loser. Not a big deal. Everybody wanted to be on it at one point because people be crazy. But anyway, the point is, the Soul Cycle story, she talks about the very first time she's gone to Soul Cycle, and she got invited there by a friend. And she actually had a little, according to the post, she was having some anxiety about it because she was an overweight girl, and she was basically afraid she was going to die of a heart attack on a Soul Cycle bike. So she was talking about how she was having anxiety, and she was Googling things to kind of get prepared for it. And then she finally went to the class, and she had a blast. And from that point forward, she started doing Soul Cycle because she said she enjoyed it, right? And the only group of friends that she has, that she mentions in 2012, based around weight loss, would be, while she was at Biggest Loser, the big cattle call for Biggest Loser, she met some other people there, and they created kind of like a little mini support group. And she talks about how one of them reached out via email to the rest of the group, and they were struggling, and they just wanted some support. And so Anna was talking about how, she wrote a letter of support back to the person. And then she basically just talked about, support groups and how that helps, and how having people around you while you're trying to lose weight helps, right? That's the only weight loss group Anna talks about. She's never mentioned Weight Watchers, ever mentioned Weight Watchers before this. Maybe somewhere in the blogs that I haven't read, which is entirely possible. Maybe she has. Maybe in one of her videos from 2017 forward that I haven't watched. Maybe she has. I have personally never heard or seen Anna talk about Weight Watchers. She doesn't talk about it in her book. She didn't talk about it on her blog. I've never seen her talk about it in her videos, right? What was the other thought I was having? Crap. She does talk about other friendships that she has with people who aren't part of that Biggest Losers group. And she talks about how she was trying to find ways with that group of friends to have friendship outings that were revolved around activity and not around food, because again, she was trying to get healthy. Anna also shares throughout her blog, throughout the years, recipes that she was making that were lower in calories or lower in fat, whatever she was doing that week. And that was how she was losing weight. She was eating less. Yes, she was more active than she'd been before. Anna started her weight journey around 330-ish, 38 pounds, I want to say. So mid 300s. So that's where Anna started her weight loss journey in 2012. Anna's easily, I personally think she's close to 600. She's very tall. So, and I know people get on me when I say that, but she's very tall. Anyway, so she's carrying a little extra weight around just because of her height, right? Natural weight, I guess is what I should be saying. Anyhow, my point is, Anna's much larger than she was when she started her weight loss journey. But again, never heard her talk about Weight Watchers before. Not in her book, not in her blog, not in her videos. If I am wrong, by all means, please put something down below. I will be more than happy to go look at it. And verify. So that's fine. But I have never heard her talk about Weight Watchers before, ever. So this whole thing of, oh, me and my social group, we got together and all of us girly pops, we were losing weight together because that's what you did. Tee-hee-hee. No, it didn't. That's never happened. Your SoulCycle friend was, I think, your college friend, which is fine. But this person was already doing SoulCycle when they invited you to go. It didn't have anything to do with Weight Watchers. Right? And you didn't even start soul cycling until 2012. You walking back and forth from home. You kind of insinuate in your 2012 blog that you didn't start doing that until 2012. So all of this stuff that she's talking about, she was living in New York in Manhattan area, and this was what she started doing as an effort to lose weight in 2012. Right? So she's making it sound like it's something she'd been doing since she was like in college. I'm not saying she didn't necessarily do anything in college, but she doesn't talk about it. And she talks about a lot of shit that she did in college. I'm just saying. It's another one of those times where I feel like she's trying to rewrite her history in a way that makes it seem like she's more of a medical mystery than she really is. Anna's always been big. Again, she talks about the weight gain and all that crap on the FinFen while she was in her preteen to teen year. Yeah, preteen years. She's shown pictures of herself during that time period. She was a larger kid. Am I supposed to believe you were on FinFen at that time? Really? Anyway, I'm sorry. The FinFen thing, I don't believe whatever. I just simply do not believe that Anna was on FinFen. I don't. And I'm sorry, that's unfortunately a hill I'm going to stand on for a while. Not die, but firmly plant my feet.
It was very different because I was gaining weight while still maintaining a really healthy lifestyle. So I was still going to spin class, I was still running, I was still eating healthy.
She wasn't gaining weight during this time. Anna never gained from 2012 until 2015-ish, somewhere around there. I think one of her last posts was 2014, December of 2014. Even then, that final blog post, she's talking about how she has maintained, not gained. She hasn't lost, but she hasn't gained either. Anna didn't gain weight during that time period from 2012 to 2014. And that was when she was the most active. She started doing yoga. She was running. So her claim that she's never run before is an absolute lie. So she was running, she was doing yoga, she was doing the spin cycle, she was walking quite a bit, she was traveling a lot. I feel like travel kind of counts because it can be a little active. So like, yeah, she was really active during those, 2 years while she was blogging. And then she drops off the planet somewhere around 2015 and comes back like late 2015, early 2016, something like that. And that's the Anna we know and love today. That somewhere in there, she had like this rebirth into the BOPO fat acceptance world. And she comes back as the fat fashion fashionista. So Yeah, up until that point, though, she was losing weight. She tracked it in her blog. Like, and now, don't get me wrong, she could have been lying her ass off during this time, right? The point is she's either lying in her blog from 2012 to 2014, or she's lying now, right? At some point in this timeline, she lied. Okay, anyway.
I was still walking to and from work, so it didn't make sense that I was gaining weight back. I honestly didn't know.
Again, activity doesn't
I felt
guarantee
very
weight loss.
cheated. I felt very angry because I felt like I did everything right and this is my predicament. So like what the hell? What the hell? And I did start to feel, and I don't think I've ever admitted this to myself until this podcast, which is a little bit wild, but I think I started to isolate myself because I was embarrassed that I wasn't able to keep up with my friends who were making, oh God, already crying, who were making all of these amazing changes in their life. And I was making the same changes, but not seeing the same success. So you begin to build this mental capacity of like, I must be lying to myself. I must be a failure. I don't want to have the conversation about why isn't it working. And I don't even know if my friends judged me in that way, but I judged myself in that way because I built my entire community and friendship around managing weight. And then I couldn't be successful in that friendship because I wasn't losing weight anymore. I even felt that way partially in my job. Like it's wild to think, when I'm really honest with myself, how much that inability to achieve that goal really messed me up.
Well, I think which obesity as a medical.
I want to rant more about how this doesn't line up with anything she wrote in her book and anything that she wrote on her blog. But I think I've beaten that horse. I do. But God, do I want to keep going on about it. Whew. She even has a blog post talking about weight loss at work and all of these inspirational stories from like six different companies' employees who had lost weight and kept it off in various ways. She lists all of them on this blog post and how they're such an inspiration and this, that, and something else. Also, I really can't stress how much, like, you can tell Anna is very much old school diet culture mentality, because she's like, oh, if I just constantly work out, I'll lose weight. Not if you're eating 6,000 calories a day. You can work out all fucking week if you want. If you're overeating, it doesn't matter. It's the calories. Anyway.
Yeah. Right. And label carries an unwarranted moral judgment to it that does not apply to other medical conditions.
Yes. I think that there is a lot of stigma about obesity. And I think there's a lot of stigma about bodies in general and what visual cues they give us. So regardless of whether you're plus size or you use a wheelchair, people are going to assume an inordinate amount of things about you based on that visual picture. And as much as you may be different than that visual picture, you are never given the benefit of the doubt. In fact, you're always climbing back from a negative assumption. The hardest part about not losing weight for me is that I didn't know what else to fix. And I think the automatic reaction to me was just to do more. But then what happens is you do more, and I would eat less and less. I would work out more and more. And I would say, honestly, running to SoulCycle, doing 2 classes and running back is probably not healthy behavior. It's just not. And there was one point in my life where I would have been proud of that, would have been like, look at all the exercise I was doing. But the reality is like, I was trying to compensate for what
somebody in my comment section or in the chat one time was like, Anna's one of those people that tells you that they overwork and overachieve, like a humble brag. Like, they're trying to make it, they want you to hear it as a negative, but they want to drive home the point that it's a positive, right? Like, you go to an interview and they're like, what's your greatest weakness? And Anna's answer would be, sometimes I just get so wrapped up in my work. That kind of a ass-kissing answer. Anna's that kind of humble bragger. But anyway.
Body wasn't doing. And I thought, well, maybe if I just pushed harder, maybe if I just did more, it would change. And then when it didn't, I really did feel like a failure. I also felt like I was delusional. I think that's a really good word for my whole entire journey. Is like, maybe I'm lying to myself, right? Like, maybe I am eating all of these things. Maybe my calorie counting is off. Maybe I'm not exercising as hard as I think I am. Maybe I'm not going fast enough on that bike. So it becomes this constant internal, like, what can I do more, until you just break down and give up. And that's essentially what happened. I just finally was like, this is too freaking much. I'm done. And I started to feel just unconnected to my friends. So I dove into work. I would work constantly. I would sleep in the office. And in line with that, we were testing a new piece of software that was for content management for social media. We needed to test that software. I was like, well, I'll just make some Instagram content. We'll see if that does well. I don't really care. It's all about the job. And anyone who knows me knows that I am a somewhat recovering workaholic. I'm still working on it, but it is who I am. So I became really good at regularly posting, at trying different things, because I was trying to test this software that helped brands and companies do that. Well, I worked really hard, and because
I was looking at her Instagram because that's where she started doing her outfits of a day. She didn't start her she did not start her YouTube channel until 2017, 2016, something like that. I think her first fashion outfit of the day post was like in 2015. I think that's it. Yeah, her first one that I can find is from March 15th, 2015, where she's going to South by Southwest, and she's got some cute hair. She's got some cute accessories. She's wearing a jumpsuit. Why the hell would you wear a jumpsuit to Southwest? But anyway, got a neat little rabbit head ring going on here. I mean, she looks good. You can also definitely see that she's way lighter than she is today. But anyway, so her very first fashionista post on Instagram was March 15th, 2025 or 2015. Could there have been others? Yes. Anna went through somewhere around 2016ish and just like scorch earthed her blog and her Instagram. So yes, there are posts from 2012 on her Instagram, and those do correlate with posts on her blog from 2012, which you have to use the Wayback Machine to read. So she was posting health related stuff on her Instagram, but when she decided to become a Bopo fashionista, whatever, she went through and just deleted everything that had to do with her weight loss journey, just completely scrubbed it from the internet. So she thought, I don't know who the hell was like cataloging her back in 2012, but somebody was. I don't know why you would do that unless you had some kind of suspicion about the person, but I don't know. I don't know why you would archive things, honestly. Maybe it was a fan and they were like, oh, I want to be able to come back and look at this, years from now. I don't know. But either way, it has been archived, and her Instagram does reflect that there was some crossover. But again, the first one that I see on her Instagram that is like an outfit of the day kind of fashion thing was on March 15th, 2025. So there you go. Felt like I needed to share that.
That I inadvertently grew a following on social media, just trying to test new technology. And it started off kind of slow. I remember I had like 10,000 followers maybe in the first couple months, and I was like blown away by that. I was like, I've made it big, but I had no clue what that would lead to. You start with the 10K, and then it's 20K, and then it's 50K, and then it's 100K, and then it's, oh my God, 200,000 people follow me. But that also means that there is a lot of people who feel like they have a say in my life for good and for bad. Being in a bigger body is very polarizing, and sometimes that's just enough. That just existing in a bigger body and not apologizing for it is enough of a reason to hate me.
Yes,
and
sure.
One day I was a nobody, and all of a sudden I was like enemy number one to some people. And I think that's when I noticed, actually, if I have to be incredibly honest, the time where I realized my life had been changed by this forever is I posted a picture of myself in a swimsuit, just a normal picture, just me on a beach. And Gillette, the company, asked me if they could use it to just repost. And again, at this point, I didn't know anything about making money. I wasn't making any money. And I was like, sure, you can repost this. I don't care. They ended up using it. It ended up getting in the wrong hands, and it became international news. People say
It ended up getting into the wrong hands. Look, dude, this is something that, like, none of the fat acceptance people seem to understand. Once you put something on the internet, you lose control of it. Period. End of discussion. It didn't get into the wrong hands. You posted a picture on the internet and then told Gillette, an international company, that they could use it for advertising purposes. And they did. Right? And you didn't have a lot of control over it to begin with when it was just on your Instagram. You definitely lost control of it, or blog, whatever. You definitely lost control of it once Gillette got hold of it and started posting it across all of their social media, right? That's the thing these girls don't seem to understand. It's mostly girls. Like, once you post anything to the internet, you don't have control over it anymore. That's why people are like, the internet is forever. Don't put your nudes, don't put your cookie crumble videos up on the internet, Amber, because you will lose control of them. And same thing with Anna. Anna's like, oh my God, it got into the wrong hands. Dude, you put it out there. If you don't want people running wild with shit that you post, don't post it. That's like the literal only way you can do that. Just don't post it. Anyway.
That a plus size person should not be used in advertising for a product like a razor.
Mm.
And it ended up to someone doing a podcast about whether or not plus size people should be in advertising. It was a very, very popular podcast. I'm not going to name it specifically, but they had a long discussion about whether I should be seen or whether or not people like me should be seen. And it led to me actually getting it.
I would love to know which podcast this was, because she's going to claim that they are the reason she got, quote, attacked in New York. Which she will then claim is why she moved away from New York. But I believe in her Better Health advertisement that she did 2 years ago now, she talks about this incident, and I think it's just, not to downplay it too much, but like some guys drove by in a car and shouted some shit at her, and I think maybe they threw something at her. I have to go back and rewatch the video. So that's the attack as far as I'm aware. And then the I lost my other train of thought. But anyway, that's kind of the point. Anna is playing this up to make it super dramatic. Oh, and then the moving away from New York thing. Anna originally said that she moved away from New York because she couldn't even walk her dog without getting recognized anymore. She had just become too famous as an influencer, and it was just invading her personal time, and she couldn't even walk Data. I mean, we saw how many people recognized her when she was walking to go get her bagel. So, there's that. It's just that kind of a thing. But now she's saying that she left New York because she didn't feel safe in New York anymore, and she got attacked when she was in New York. And all of this is because of this one particular podcast whose name she's not going to mention. I would like to know what podcast it was if somebody does know, because I don't actually know. I'm sure it's some Dubro podcast that I don't listen to. But anyway, my point is, she's going to blame this podcast for her getting attacked, which gives her a convenient excuse to move away from New York. Nobody really knows why she moved out of New York and why she moved to Texas. Like, nobody knows why, really. I mean, Anna does, but I don't think anybody else really knows why she did it, because the answers she gives always change depending on who asks and what year it is, apparently. So there's that. Anyway.
Attacked on a sidewalk. And it's part of the reason I left New York.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's when it clicked, that I was in a lot of ways powerful, because if I could make somebody this angry, then like, that's pretty powerful. But
It's
also
so
I had
powerful,
to
I
think
ran
about
away.
my life in a very different way. I had to protect myself, and I had to learn to navigate in this world where people knew who I was and had an opinion about me. I also started to get very involved in the body positivity movement, and this
There's
opened
your
up
first problem.
a whole different world where my weight was seen in just a very different way for the first time in my life. So now I have this beautiful place in social media where people are like, you're beautiful, you're special. And we were talking about bigger bodies in a different way. I had lived in this world where I had learned to accept negative preconceived opinions of me and rise above them, which is, again, a great skill, but not super healthy or amazing to live in. And now was presented with a world where I didn't have to prove anything, or at least it felt like I didn't have to prove anything. And that was, for lack of a better word, addictive. We were right in that crux of body positivity coming to light. So the acceptance of a bigger body was on the way of being more accepted versus less. And so there was a lot of advocacy. There was a lot of supportive people. Don't get me wrong, still bad people out there saying mean things. That is the internet. But it was definitely a better place. And that space gave me hope in a lot of ways. Hope that I could learn to live in this body and not necessarily constantly be focused on changing that body. And the body positive community helped me stop measuring my value in a size and helped me start appreciating what my body was capable of. And I will always be grateful for that. That said, my time in that community did cause some harm. And I think that that's really hard to say because I don't want people to feel betrayed or hurt or like I'm biting the hand that fed me. But there's a lot of things in that community that make going to the doctor or even doing basic everyday things scary. There's a lot of discussion about how the medical community doesn't support fat bodies, which is true in a lot of instances, but it doesn't mean that all medical professionals are out to get plus size people. Also, there was a lot of discussion about it's okay to take a break. It's okay to be tired, which again, a valuable insight into life. But I began to feel like, oh, being tired is just part of a bigger body. Being exhausted, being in pain, these things are just normal because I am plus size. So it began to write a script for me that this was just my reality. And this is the reality I had to live in. And I just got, for lack of a better word, shitty cards. And there's nothing I could do.
This is a great segue into a question about when you started to think about perhaps your size as a more medical issue, if there were something else beyond just your size that was causing you to feel tired and everything that you just described.
I'm going to be really, really candid about all of this. This is a podcast, so we're just going to be real, right? I hadn't had a normal poop for years, and it was beginning to affect my ability to do basic everyday things. And I would get...
Anna, don't you know that pooping and being able to wipe your ass and having normal excretions is fat phobic and ableist? Excuse you.
So exhausted on top of this. Sorry, I just said the poop because it was like that was the thing that like broke the camel's back. But it would also be things like I would go and have a great day. Like I did all of these things. I'm like, man, my body's amazing. I can do all of these things. And then I would pass out. And I would physically be unable to leave my bed. Like everything in my body would just break down. And I'd be stuck that way for 2 to 3 days. I would have gastrointestinal issues. I sometimes would be vomiting. I would be violently ill. I started struggling to get out of bed just in general. And I kept pushing myself physically because around this point, I started to feel in my body really broken down. So as I'm in this community, I just kept thinking, oh, the reason my knee hurts is because I'm fatter. The reason my ankle hurts is because I'm fatter. The reason my thighs hurt are because I'm fatter. The reason I'm tired is because I'm fatter. The reason when I stand up, I almost pass out is because I'm fatter. All of these things just became related to the weight, and that's just how my body was. And so I initially pretended like a...
Why is that so hard for people to accept? Like, sure, there might be other problems contributing to each one of those things. But if you weren't overweight to begin with, well, you could at least eliminate being overweight as the problem, right? It's just one of those things, like, you are morbidly obese, and she really was during the Bopo time. She gained a lot of weight during the Bopo time, very quickly. So yeah, she was probably having a lot of obesity-related health issues, like not being able to stand up without getting dizzy kind of shit. Like, yeah, your knees probably did hurt. Yeah, your thighs probably did hurt. Why is it so difficult for people to accept that A, obesity is a medical issue, and B, it contributes to pain and lethargy and hormonal imbalance? I mean, there's a reason why it's a medical disorder. It's not just a word to describe fat. It's a medical issue. It causes problems. Being obese is a problem.
A lot of those things didn't exist. I think when it became really clear, I have one moment I remember that is the moment where I realized I couldn't live like this anymore. I was in Hawaii. We were filming swimsuits or something, you know, as one does as a creator. And I couldn't walk in the sand.
As a creator.
It hurt so bad. And there's a video of me somewhere, I'd burn it if I could, where I fall into the sand and I just cry. And then I scream, turn the effing camera off. I don't want anyone to see me like this. I'm so ashamed.
She has this video, not the screaming at the camera video, though we're not surprised. She does have this video that she's talking about up on her channel. I wonder if she still has it anyway. Excuse me. But she talks about this story in that video, and the whole point of that video was to talk about her overall health and how she wasn't as healthy as she thought she was, and how she needed to do more to get into shape, because she honestly thought that since she'd been working out for like 3 weeks, that she was some kind of like buff boss babe, and then not being able to walk in the sand at like 600 pounds, like broke something in her and just really drove home the fact that she can't walk. Excuse me. Anyway, that whole video has a completely different tone than this retelling of the story, right? She's now trying to rewrite that story as whatever this is, this leading into she's not fat because she's fat, you guys. She's fat because she has lipedema. Lipedema that is, by the way, internationally recognized as being a comorbidity of obesity. Not in the US, apparently. In the US, they're two different things. But internationally, lipedema and obesity are one and the same. Not one and the same, but they are caused... hang on real quick. The way Dr. Bertsch put it was that lipedema is 5% of the problem. Obesity is the other 95%. Right? In the international standards, lipedema is treated... You treat the obesity that almost always is related, like nearly always related. You treat the obesity first, then you treat the lipedema. Here in the US, apparently we do it completely opposite. And we'll talk about why the international standards are the way they are and why they don't recommend using liposuction for the treatment of lipedema with prior to weight loss. And we can see it happening. The reasons for this, we can see that happening in Anna's physique today. Excuse me, because everything that the international standards predicted that would happen is happening to Anna. Like, she's putting weight on in strange places. She's having basically fat swelling in places where she would not have normally had it if she still had all of her fat cells. It's really eye-opening. But anyway, I just wanted people to be aware that there is an actual video that you could actually go watch on her actual channel that is this story, this very Hawaii story, and it's a completely different story. Like, the details are all the same, but the conclusion and the information drawn from it are completely different.
And I was this person who represented someone who loves their body. And I was at war with my body. And in that moment, I was like, I am such a liar. And I think that moment is where I was like, I need to make some changes. And I did not share that with the internet right away. I never shared that specific moment with the internet because it was too personal. I sometimes wonder if I've hurt people. As a creator in the body positivity space, I parroted a lot of the same messages that everybody else did. You know, love your body, indulge in what you want. Life is short. You know, don't feel like you need to have this health standard. And that line of thinking at a very high level isn't wrong, right?
That's not what I want.
But I often wonder if I have driven people to not seek health. And I wonder if there's people who listened to me, who believed in me, who followed me, and are worse off because of it. And so part of the reason I share a lot about my health journey is because I have that guilt, and that guilt is going to follow me forever. And I did it unintentionally, and I did it because I myself was broken. But I believe that there has to be this space where we...
Stop. How are you a victim even while apologizing for misinforming people who listened to you in the past? Like, even while apologizing for misleading people, you are still somehow spinning this so that you are the victim here. That's just amazing to me. That's just amazing to me. And for you to sit here and be like, oh my God, I hurt people in the past because of the BOPO movement, and I may have kept people from going and getting medical help. Yeah, you probably did. I've seen your videos. And no offense, but you're not exactly doing anybody any favors right now either. So, anyway.
And acknowledge that bodies come in different shapes and sizes. Well, at the same time, acknowledge that just because your body doesn't fit a certain shape doesn't mean you should not care how you feel. It's a really complicated conversation, and it is very nuanced, and there are a lot of very angry voices in it. And I understand why they're angry, right? I get that anger because I've been there, and I, in a lot of ways, in some ways, I'm still there. But the messaging is at times causing the same problems it's trying to prevent. And I don't know if I'll ever be smart enough or eloquent enough to fully explain that dichotomy, but it is a community that saved me, but also a community that broke me. And that is a really, really difficult thing to explain.
I want to share with you something that my mentor told me a long time ago about why people seek help. And he's a joint replacement surgeon, right? So he deals with people who have terrible arthritis in their knees and their hips all the time. And he asked me, he said, do you know when people come to me and they say, I want a knee replacement? I said, oh, like, you know, when their x-ray looks terrible.
I am cheating the game. Follow me. I just want the people in the college to all be young adults. And the game apparently doesn't have enough young adults to populate the college. So I'm just going to take all of the elders, even though they're townies, and I'm just going to de-age them. Problem solved, right? I know. You can yell at me down in the comment section down below, but this is how we're doing this, all right?
Terrible, and they're in so much pain. And he said, it's not about the pain. People can handle pain, and people are handling pain all the time. It's when you are emotionally fatigued from the pain that is when they come to see me and they tell me they need help. And so you should feel no guilt in that you felt like it took too long for you to seek answers and reach out for help. I would say that's the norm.
Thank you. Thank you for telling me that. Honestly, thank you. It got to the point where I was afraid I was going to die. I know that sounds like dramatic, but I was also having extremely intense periods. I was bleeding constantly. Like, I just felt like my body was on the verge of shutting down. And if this is what living was like, then I didn't want to live. And so at that point, it became a choice of, do I want to die like this? Or do I want to try and make it better? And it took me a year of therapy to get to the point where I could mentally see a doctor because I was so paranoid from all the things I'd heard. And part of that paranoia came from an experience I had when I first entered the body positive movement, where I went to a doctor. At this point, I was still really active. I was running about 3 miles a day. I was smaller than I am currently and eating, pretty healthy. So I went to the doctor. I walked in. She ran all my labs. There was nothing wrong. I did not have, diabetes, prediabetes. At this point, nothing was wrong with me. And she tried to put me on diabetes medication simply because I was overweight, even though my blood labs did not indicate I needed it. Then she tried to sell me a program where I give myself a shot and eat 600 grams of chicken or something like that. Do you know what that is, by the way? It's like some shot you don't eat, and then you eat like a tiny amount of protein.
I don't know, because I don't know when this particular medical exam happened. Anytime, I know I'm like this, and I know it aggravates a couple people. Anytime I hear these kind of stories, especially from people who are FA or BOPO, I take a giant grain of salt with this stuff, because it's just so unbelievable that it's just very hard to follow. Now, here's my thing with these kind of stories. Did Anna go to a doctor and some form of interaction occurred where the doctor was worried about her being pre-diabetic and also offered Anna a weight loss plan because Anna's always been large. She started at in the mid 300s. She gained easily. Dude, if she wasn't 600 pounds during this time, I don't know what to tell you. Anyway, my point is, so what if the doctor did offer these things, but what Anna heard was, I want you on diabetes medicine even though you don't have diabetes, and I want you to lose weight by taking this magical shot and only eat chicken. There is no diet plan on the planet that a medical doctor is going to prescribe to you where it's have a magical shot and don't eat anything but chicken. That diet plan does not exist. I'm sorry, I don't believe you. But is that what Anna's brain interpreted? Yeah, maybe, possibly, because Anna's already programmed to see doctors as adversaries and to interpret everything that they are going to say to her as fat phobia, right? The only thing that they are concerned about is making her smaller. Well, I mean, yeah, obesity is an issue. They want to get you to a healthy weight, or at least smaller weight than what you're at. Okay, yeah, why is that so freaking weird to people? But anyway, so that's my thing. I don't believe this interaction happened, but is it possible that Anna's brain made this interaction happen at a normal doctor's appointment, or maybe an abnormal doctor's appointment, or any doctor's appointment? Yeah, I do. I think fat acceptance and BOPO people go into these appointments already prepared for a negative, fat phobic appointment. And so they're combative when they go in. They're non-compliant when they do talk to the doctors. And they probably frustrate the hell out of their doctors. And then they rewrite these experiences in these harrowing, tragic, victimizing ways. And it's like, yeah, your perception of this event, maybe it did turn out to be this way, but is that what actually happened? No, I don't believe that at all. I don't. Do I think Anna believes that's what happened? Yeah, you don't have to work hard to convince me of that. But also with Anna, Anna herself likes to embellish. She likes to change the story. She likes to obfuscate her timelines. She likes to do anything except tell you the truth. And so with Anna telling this story on top of everything else, like the other major problem with this is Anna is an unreliable narrator. And so everything Anna says is suspect, including this story. I know people in my comments section have shared stories about going to doctors and not being heard or getting misdiagnosed or things that should not happen at a doctor's office, right? I myself have had shitty doctors, right? So I know this crap does happen, but like with BOPO and FA people, it's always happening. Every doctor on the planet is like this. They're all out to get you because you're fat. Maybe you were pre-diabetic, Anna. Yeah, your blood levels would not have shown that you were diabetic because you were pre-diabetic. Maybe that's why the doctor wanted to put you on probably metformin, so that they could get your diabetes under control before it became an actual fucking issue. Maybe. I don't know. That's what they did with my aunt. Go figure. You know, this weird fucking diet that you're talking about. What the hell are you talking about? What magical shot were they giving people? Unless it was insulin, and you would be insulin resistant, which would mean you were diabetic. And the whole like just eat chicken, just eat protein, just eat this one, but only chicken protein. No doctor is going to do that. No doctor is going to put you on a mono food diet. I don't care. Maybe they put you on a high protein diet. That I could believe. But a mono food diet? No. It's just no. Just the stories she tells. They're just no. I'm sorry. You're not going to convince me that this is true. Does Anna believe it's true? I don't know, honestly. Does Anna want the audience to believe it's true? Yes. She wants us to believe that this is the story that she went through. This is the trial she went through when she went to the doctor's office. And, doctors are just the worst. You guys are constantly telling you to do things like lose weight and get healthy and be active. Oh my God. Why can't you just give me pills to make my foot not hurt? I don't know, man. I mean, would you rather be taking pills for the rest of your life or work out 30 minutes a day and reap the benefits of that. Plus, your foot doesn't hurt anymore. Apparently, we'd rather take pills every day. Anyway.
That's it. And she was like, I want you to do this for 30 days. And I literally was like, hell to the no. I will not.
Wow.
Do you know what I'm talking about? Do you even know what that is?
Wow. Hell to the no. That's Amber. She's doing Amberisms. Does she watch Amber?
I have no idea what that is. I mean, nowadays, you know, with in the era of Ozempic, right?
Yeah.
People think shots. That's
no,
know,
it was
norm,
not Ozempic.
I don't believe that was the norm.
This was like this was before that, and it was like some crazy thing.
Exist.
And then you would reintegrate food. So I remember being terrified because she also sat me down and she's like, "You need to exercise more. You need to do this." And I'm like,
So she okay. So it sounds like, I don't know what the shot is, honest to God. I think Anna's making shit up, but it sounds like she was trying to put you on an elimination diet, which they will do occasionally to find out if you have foods that are causing problems, like nightshades, or my God, my boss had to go on one. I don't know what she ate. They eliminated like everything, like literally everything from her diet. I'm like, what are you eating? She's like, soup. A lot of soup. This is like, Jesus Christ. Anyway, the whole point is they take you off of a lot of foods that are known to have inflammatory or, you know, triggering properties, and you go off of them for like a month, and then you slowly start reintroducing one food at a time, and you wait a week or two to see if you have any reactions to it. And if you don't, you get to reintroduce another food, and it can take a really long time. But the whole point is to find the foods that are causing you IBS or weird flare-ups that are mysterious and you gain 40 pounds of fluid weight overnight, Anna. You know, shit like that. Is that what happened? I don't know. I don't even know if this actually ever happened. I don't know if she actually ever went to a doctor and actually sat down and actually had this conversation with her doctor. Like, this could be completely made up. Again, Anna is not a reliable narrator. So this could be a totally fabricated story, which this weird shot that no one seems to know what it is, but it wasn't Ozempic. Either she wanted to put you on insulin because you were diabetic, or you're making shit up. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry.
I'm running 3.
This is exactly what pseudoscience and pseudoarchaeology sounds like if you were to put it into fat acceptance hands. You just take the words science and archaeology out of it, and you put the words health and fat and obesity in here. It's the same fucking thing. It sounds exactly the same, which is why I'm very skeptical of everything that she's saying right now. Anyway.
Miles a day. There is nothing more I can do. So I had that experience, and now let's add to the table. I've gained back the weight, so now I'm 100 pounds heavier. What is that doctor going to say to me now? If that was my last experience, what is that doctor going to say to me now? They're going to say,
did you do what the doctor told you to do in order to get your weight under control? No. Well, I don't know. I'll go off what Dr. Now tells people when they come into his office and he gives them a diet plan and they don't stick to it, and then they gain weight, and he looks at them and goes, if you don't stick to the diet, you're not going to lose weight. If you're not going to follow the orders that I give you, why are you even in my office? So that I guess is what the doctor would probably tell you today.
You're trash. And now I've heard from everybody else around the internet that when you get bigger, it just gets worse and worse and worse. And they're nasty and mean and they do all these things. So my fear of the doctor was intense. So after a year of therapy, I kind of went through it. I saw a doctor through a process of extreme elimination. ZocDoc is amazing to get reviews on doctors, so you can at least get a gist of what people like and don't like about them. And so I read all of the reviews, and luckily someone who was plus size had already seen this doctor and said that they were kind and compassionate and all of that. And I said, awesome, I'm going to go to this person. That doctor, I can definitively say, changed my life because they started the process for where I am now. And when I went in to see him, he sat down, and honestly, I walked in with going back to shots. I said, just give me Ozempic. Just do it. If it'll make me feel better, I can't feel this way, because I honestly believed that the solution to my problem was that I needed to lose weight. So I had worked through therapy.
When did Ozempic hit the market? So, according to Google, which can never lie, Ozempic was approved by the FDA in 2017 for the treatment of type 2 diabetes. So it's been on the market since 2017. But Ozempic specifically approved for chronic weight loss management received FDA approval in 2021. So before that, it would have been off label if they had recommended it to her for weight loss. So prior to 2021, if Anna had gone into a doctor and been like, just give me Ozempic, it would have been for type 2 diabetes treatment, right? Again, Google can never lie, but given those dates. So this story, as Anna is telling it, is then that she saw the doctor who wanted to give her a mystery shot and put her on some drug for diabetes that she didn't have diabetes for. That could have happened at any time prior to 2021. So it wasn't until at least 2021 that Anna went into a doctor's office to go see whoever this guy is that she's talking about and was like, just put me on Ozempic. Which also says that Anna was looking for weight loss drugs prior to 2023. I believe that's when she started taking the Wegovy. 2023, 2024, somewhere in there, because she got the Wegovy shots from Novo Nordisk because she became a sponsor for them. Not a sponsor, a advertiser person for them. Spokesperson, there we are, words. For them. I'm wasting my energy drink. And so she got that shot somewhere between 23 and 24, which means this needed to happen. This Ozempic story that she's telling right now needed to happen between 21 and 22, 2021, 2022. Because again, prior to 2021, Ozempic was for type 2 diabetes only, treatment only, right? It wasn't approved by the FDA until 2021, which means if they were prescribing it, which they might have been, they could have been prescribing it off label for weight loss prior to that, but it wouldn't have been that well known, I guess is my point. Timelines, man. I'm just trying to put the timelines together. This is just my perception of the timeline. I can be completely wrong. Problem with Anna is she won't correct any of this. She'll just let it sit there and fester and then complain about the fact that nobody trusts her, but won't do anything to correct the issue. Like, if you just came out and gave me a timeline that I could follow, that I could believe, that would eliminate 85% of the problem, honestly, because the timeline is what gets you in trouble 90% of the time, or at least 85%. Anyway, my point is, Anna's not going to correct this. She's never going to give us a timeline. We're never going to know the true progress of this story. All I can do is take things that Anna has said, line them up with things that she's done. Like that trip to Hawaii was in somewhere between 2021 and 2022, maybe even 2023. So it's recent. That Hawaii trip was recent. I could go look it up. I'm not going to. So her having that Hawaii meltdown was very, very recent, which also means that all of this stuff she's talking about, going and getting all of this weird health stuff done, and that's happened within the last 4 or 5 years. I think it was Fit and Full Fat was saying that Anna was talking about having lipedema in 2020. So Anna's known for a long time that she's had lipedema. She's been talking about having it, which means at some point she's at least been diagnosed with it somewhere, right? I don't know. I guess we'll find out as she goes. But I'm almost positive in Fit and Full Fat's deep dive, which I'll also link because it has some interesting things in it. But in that, Anna mentions having lipedema around 2020. Anna hasn't even mentioned lipedema yet, right? And we're in somewhere in, 2021? We're at least in 2021 if she's going into a doctor's office and asking for Ozempic. right? So, yeah, I don't know. It's shit like this that makes you go,
To accept that losing weight could help my health. I went through a lot of things to try to accept the fact that I was going to have to lose weight, right?
Losing weight will help
that
your
wasn't
health.
a bad thing, but it was about feeling better. So I went into this doctor and I'm like, just give me the shot. And he literally looked at me and was like, how can I give you a medicine if I don't know if you're sick? And it kind of took me back. He's like, I'm not giving you
Was he blind? Was he a blind doctor?
anything until we read your labs.
I mean, that's
like, I don't know
Murder
what's going
these
on with
people.
you. And that is not a professional thing to do. Just hand over medication to a patient I've just met.
That's fair.
So
Okay, I've already done you.
he ran some labs
Damn
on
it,
me.
Erica.
And the first thing that came up is that I was in a really
Ew.
bad place. My instincts of the fact that I was on the verge of death weren't necessarily so wrong. I had major deficiencies in a lot of different vitamins. I had a lot of anemia and I was losing blood. Additionally, I came back as positive for Hashimoto's. So I literally thought, oh,
I was actually very curious about what was going to happen to this Hashimoto's diagnosis that she had.
okay, these are the answers, right? So put on a medication for, get on Synthroid, which is what you take for thyroid disorder, or hypo, or the what?
So
I should know
Hashimoto's
this.
thyroiditis, and it actually can cause hyper or hypo,
Yeah.
depending on it's your body's attack on your thyroid, which affects the production of the thyroid hormone. So a medication like Synthroid is given when you have abnormally levels of low thyroid hormone in your body.
Okay, thank you.
No, don't talk to him. I
So
just wanted to leave the machine.
I got put on Synthroid. I got put on all these vitamins. Immediately, things started to improve to a point. I started having more energy. I started having less days in extreme fatigue. So I started to feel better. And I was like, this is it. I've solved all my problems. I started to lose weight just because my thyroid was now
We
working.
needed to
You know, like,
enhance a bot.
that's a problem. So I was like, everything's solved. Everything's done. Everything's great. And it was good for a couple months. But
There we
then
go.
a lot of the stuff started to come back. So I did get relief. It's just not in the permanency that I expected. So I started to have fatigue again. I started to have anemia that we couldn't get under control. And my doctor was like, I think something's wrong with your menstrual cycle, your lady bit. Something's not right down there. So he said, I'm going to refer you to an OBGYN. I probably needed to see one anyway, because again, I hadn't been to the doctor in a really long time. So he referred me to someone that was with my insurance. And I walked into the room and he had just built this great perspective of doctors for me. So I went in with full hope and full glory. Like, the entire medical community has changed. Everything is great. We're respected and cared about now. Yay. And this woman was absolutely terrible to me. She would not give me the treatment that my doctor had requested I'd have, because she said that I was just too fat for it. And she refused to give me a pap smear for the same reason. She said,
I'm trying to find something, but I can't find anything that says that you can be too big for a pap smear. I'm sure you can be too big for the equipment, like that stupid table with the little leg doodads. I could imagine you could be too big for that. I could see if you had too much hanging skin that it might be too difficult to get into the places where you need to go to have a pap smear done. I could definitely see how being over a certain weight could definitely make it very uncomfortable. Like, pap smears are not fun to begin with. I feel like anything complicating that is going to make it even worse. Like, don't get me wrong. I have never heard of someone being denied a pap smear because they were too big. As a matter of fact, they beg women to go get pap smears yearly. And I cannot find anything on the internet saying that there is a BMI or a weight too high for a pap smear. But I do see a lot of things saying that the higher your BMI, the more likely you are to have an abnormal pap, which if you know, you know. If you don't, feel happy, be glad. But that's all I can find. So again, I call bullshit. I call big steaming pile of bullshit. Unless Anna's physiology is such that the doctor could not physically perform a pap smear on her. That could be. I don't know. I don't want to know. But that's like the only thing I can think of as to why this doctor would have been like, no, I'm not giving you a PAP. I don't see it happening. I'm sorry, I don't. My doctor, my OBGYN, she's a freaking robot, okay? I was just talking about this morning. She's a damn robot. She's still good at our job, right? And I've had surgery under her, and I am considered a high-risk patient at my weight, okay? And she even told me that straight up. At no point has she ever said, sorry, I can't give you a PAP. Matter of fact, she wants to stick shit up there all day long. Sorry. Anyway, my point is, no issues getting treatment, no issues getting, I had to have the surgery. The only complication they told me that I might have at the surgery because of my weight was that I might stop breathing. I am of a sufficient enough weight that they were afraid that I would stop breathing during the surgery and that they might have to intubate me. And that's kind of scary. I'm not that big. I mean, I am, but like, that's the other part of the problem. Like, I'm 173 right now? And that's big enough for them to worry about me stop breathing on the operation table during a surgery that didn't really involve, I mean, it was a major surgery, but it wasn't like heart surgery, you know? It wasn't that big of a deal, right? But anyway, that's the problem here. Anna wants you to believe that she went to an OBGYN that was recommended by her GP, and that OBGYN recommended by her GP told her that she was too big to have a pap smear done to her. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I just don't. I'm sorry. Again, a hill I'm going to firmly plant my feet on until proven otherwise. I do not believe it. If you are denied a pap, I think the only reasons for them to deny you a PAP would be if they physically could not maneuver to get in there to do a PAP. Okay. And I don't know. I've never met somebody like that. I'm sure people in 600 Pound Life have never had PAPs. Amber had PAPs. Amber had her lady bits examined. Amber has a very unique body shape. They still managed to get something up there, right? And she wants me to believe Anna, who has a very proportional body shape considering how much weight she's carrying. She wants me to believe that she couldn't get a PAP done because she was too big? No, Anna. No, I don't believe you. I'm sorry. I just simply do not believe you. I just don't believe it. I'm sorry. I refuse to believe it. My feet are firmly planted. I don't want that. I want that.
That the only thing that was wrong with me was that I was too fat.
I mean,
and repeatedly told me this to the point where I broke down crying in the parking lot outside. I messaged my doctor in the little portal and I said, I guess I'm just too fat for the normal period. And he was like, listen, I have a friend. He's not going to be covered by your insurance, but he's good. He will listen to you and he's my friend. His approach to medicine is the same as my approach to medicine.
So now you're telling me that your GP sent you to an not saying that they don't recommend people who are out of, what are they called? Out of plan? An out of plan doctor. But it's, okay, keep going.
And I remember walking to that office and being
I was trying to do something
this
here.
is going to be a train wreck again. I don't know if I can take it. If this happens again, I don't know if I can keep going. And he sat me down. He said, I'm not here to treat your weight. I'm here to treat your illness. Again, that same kind of messaging where I'm like, okay, this guy has got it. So he did all of the things and he said, I'm going to biopsy you. You shouldn't be bleeding this much. You are on all of these iron supplements and you're still anemic. That doesn't seem right. So they ended up doing a biopsy. They did find a growth in my uterus and it was inconclusive. The test was inconclusive. So it could have been cancerous. It could not have been. And he's like, we're going to have a surgery date for you in 3 weeks.
If her biopsy was anything like my biopsy, that was easily the most lady pain I have ever gone through in my life. That hurt so much. I could not walk afterwards. It was excruciating. It was miserable. Okay. I just, like, anybody who tells me they've had a biopsy up there, my heart goes out to you, because that is probably the worst medical experience I have had since I was, how old was I when they took the plantar wart out? Very young. So anyway, my point is, wow, that was terrible. And her to just like walk that off like that, I don't know, man.
You need to get it out. So like I went in from hearing nothing's wrong with you, you're just fat too, to hearing you have a growth and it needs to be removed immediately because we're concerned about its size. Finding out I had to pay out of pocket.
She had a fibroid. I mean, not playing it down. It's when she first posted about this surgery, and I think she did have this surgery in, maybe it was 24. Yeah, because I didn't really start covering her until 24. It might have been 23. I just thought the way that she described the surgery, it was very, because she had it real close to mine. Yeah, so it must have been 23. So I was like, oh, well, she's having something similar, but it must be different because of the way she's going on about it. But the more she's talking, the more I'm like, sounds like we had the exact same thing. So it sounds like she's getting ready to have a DNC to get the fibroids out or whatever this growth ends up being. Because what this guy is telling her is the same thing they were telling me. There's no we can't tell if it's cancerous or not. It's best to just get in there and take it out. All right, cool. I don't care. You're going to knock my ass out. I'm not going to be awake for it. So that kind of a thing, like, and then they test it afterwards and tell you, no, you're fine. They love getting your blood pressure up. That's the one thing I will complain about. The doctors love telling you the worst case scenario. I understand it's probably to like prepare you for the worst and then hope for the best kind of a thing, but god damn, they love to get you worked up. Anyhow, her surgery is beginning to sound very similar to mine at this point, which is going to be a thing here in a minute, I'm pretty sure.
Receive basic care just because I was in a bigger body was so frustrating and so debilitating, because at this point I'd already spent so much money. I was driving to see doctors. It's like I couldn't catch a break. And then to be in a situation where someone literally refused to give me basic care that my primary care doctor had already requested because they were concerned something was going on is wild to me, right? And that was an acceptable answer and that was okay, and that person felt entirely comfortable doing it. And then to have to pay out of pocket to get the basic standard tests that lots of people get all of the time and find out, oh, I do have a tumor, was just so incredibly frustrating. Like, why?
You want me to believe that you couldn't find another OBGYN in your insurance, with your insurance, that you could have gone to see? You want me to believe that you, who pay out of pocket, like you pay for your insurance, mine's provided, right? You want me to believe that you couldn't find another OBGYN in your insurance plan that would see you? I don't believe you. If you could have found, if you just went, because this is all basic care. There's nothing weird about any of this, right? This is what they do when they find this shit because they don't want you to die. That's their job. Anyway, she goes to one doctor that gets recommended to her by her GP. She has a bad experience with them. And then she just swears off all of the doctors in her medical plan to go see a guy outside of her medical plan. Like, why didn't the GP recommend someone else inside the medical plan? Why didn't she just call her insurance and is like, hey, I need to see an OBGYN. Me and this one aren't clicking. Are there other OBGYNs I can go see? Because I guarantee you there has to be at least several others that she could go see. That's how these plans work, right? Not everybody doesn't go to the one GP and the one OBGYN. Even on my plan, that doesn't happen, right? So I don't know. Again, you couldn't find somebody in plan to go see so that all of this would have been paid for by your insurance without batting an eye? Really? You really want me to believe that? I don't, but okay. Like, why didn't you just...
Why did I have to pay to find out something that we pretty much already had a good inkling might be happening? Just because someone didn't want to believe it. Someone didn't believe that a plus size person could actually have an issue.
Okay, sure.
That it couldn't be anything other than my weight. There's no way. And I had to pay for someone to believe me. So
I'm going to tell you what my doctor told me. And that was, my OBGYN told me. And that was because I was obese, that my chances of having the fibroids that I did, that's probably why I had them. My obesity was contributing to the fibroids themselves. The fact that I had never had, I mean, I probably had them my entire life, but they'd never given me any problems until 2023. That itself was weird, or for her. I was like, I didn't even know I had fibroids. Everything was fine up until this year. And she's like, you got to keep an eye on it. It may or may not spring back up again. Cool. You know, that kind of a thing. But like, she made it very clear that my obesity contributed to me having those, right? So for a OBGYN to be telling Anna, I don't believe any of the shit she says that this OBGYN told her, but for an OBGYN to be telling her that this particular health issue, it's sounding very similar to mine, was at least contributed to by her obesity, I don't think that's outrageous. I don't think people understand the health issues that go along with being obese. It is a medical problem. It's a diagnosis for a reason. You need to be treated for it for a reason. It's not because your doctor thinks you're fat. The fat is the problem. I don't get it. And I keep driving this home because so many of you are like, oh, you're so skinny. Oh, you're so this. You don't look that fat. Okay, you can go tell that to my doctor if you want. I don't think he's going to agree with you. I've seen my medical records. Like, it's this kind of shit. People don't think of people being fat until they see people like Anna. Anna's not fat, guys. She's morbidly obese. There's a reason why the word morbidly is in front of that word. I mean, I hate to sound like Alan Roberts at this point, but dude's got a point. He drives it home very, very, like, aggressively. But he and I do not disagree on this one. Anyway. Well, we're almost halfway through this. All right, let's keep going.
I was scheduled for surgery 3 weeks later.
I might get my sim to be able to do the thing I want it to do.
About anesthesia and what that meant in a bigger body. But again, because I had a doctor that actually was educated about plus size, he was able to find an anesthesiologist to work with him that had worked on bigger bodies before. And I was able to have a really successful surgery. Fortunately, when we came out of that surgery, it was benign, the growth, and it was removed. But there began to be questions about my estrogen levels. They weren't necessarily tracking high, but the nature of the growth made it feel like there was potentially too much estrogen in my body. So it didn't make sense. Let's just put it that way. And there's several times in my journey.
Adipose tissue is hormonally active. It produces estrogen. So for you to be morbidly obese and to have high estrogen levels or have disorders that respond to high estrogen levels, I don't know why that doesn't make sense to you. The more fat you have, the more estrogen your body is producing. That's not necessarily a good thing. You know, there's a point where you have too much. Okay? And when you have too much, things start to go wrong. Adipose tissue produces estrogen. What part of this is difficult? You and I both had problems that were contributed to, if not caused, by too much estrogen. 1 + 1 = 16, apparently. Anyway, onward.
Where things don't make sense. So
sure,
that happened. And again, when I had the tumor and I had that removed, that was really scary because we didn't know if it was cancerous or not. It really came down to, oh, this is a hormonal thing. This is, you know, maybe related to your weight, may not be, but like, you know, we've solved it and we have precautions going forward. That's never going to be an issue again. You're going to feel less anemic. I was like, we've solved it. Everything's done. I'm great.
My doctor told me that I had to keep an eye on this in case it came back because there's a strong possibility that it could come back. So I do. You know, it's like at no point did my doctor go, okay, no, it didn't happen. It did not happen. Anyway. No talking to Mary.
Things are perfect. And then those problems didn't go away. I still have issues with anemia. I still have exhaustion. But every time you go into a surgery or a major treatment like that, you hope on the other side that that's the answer. And it is a little bit of a heartbreak every single time you get that diagnosis and you start that treatment and you think, this is it. This is the time where everything gets better and I can magically be this person that I have dreamed of being or have been
Oh, I didn't realize
previously.
you got shocked.
And then you find out you can't. And it's hard to keep faith that.
Okay, if you want to get off the medications and you want to feel better and yada yada yada, do da 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 da, you want to be normal, you're gonna have to lose weight. I know you hate hearing that. Could you be of a normal weight and still have health issues? Yes. But until you get to the normal weight, like you eliminate the obesity as a possibility, I don't get it. I don't understand what's so hard about this shit. Anyway.
You'll get there. One of the hardest things about being on a journey to figure out your health, whether it's something like I have or a completely different condition, is that you feel insane 75% of the time because you don't have answers. Like answers, even if they're terrible, knowing what's going on or even the hope of knowing what's going on is the only thing that kind of keeps you alive some days.
No.
There's still so much I don't have answers for. And sometimes it does feel like, am I going to feel shitty for the rest of my life? Is my health going to be unpredictable and uncontrollable and unexpected for the rest of my life? So when I stopped losing weight, it became really frustrating. So I ended up working on a campaign related to weight, and I met a doctor that I really loved who studied obesity conditions. And I decided to take a next step and try to figure out what was going on by going to see her. So I started driving to Houston once a month to see this doctor. And I did start taking Ozempic, but the weirdest thing happened through that process is, yes, I lost weight, but not as quickly as they would have imagined. But what did happen is I started to have just a complete reduction in pain and increase.
Did she just say she was on Ozempic?
Start taking Ozempic, but the weird I really loved who studied obesity conditions. And I decided to take a next step and try to figure out what was going on by going to see her. So I started driving to Houston once a month to see this doctor.
Doctor now?
And I did start taking Ozempic, but the weirdest thing happened through that process is, yes, I lost weight, but not as quickly as they would have imagined. But what did...
Because much like the Wegovy, you learn to eat around it. So you were on Ozempic. So this is the obesity doctor that you talk about briefly every once in a while. And they had you on Ozempic? So you were on Ozempic in at least 2023? When did the Wegovy start? Does Novo Nordisk make both of them? Anna specifically said Wegovy, though. So maybe she's just doing that thing where she's calling Wegovy Ozempic and yada yada, because a lot of people do that. They just kind of use both terms interchangeably. So maybe that's what's going on. Maybe she was on both. I guess we'll find out.
What happened is I started to have just a complete reduction in pain and increased mobility. So I started becoming more and more active because...
This makes me suspect that she's actually talking about when she became a spokesperson for Wegovy, for Novo Nordisk, and I thought she was on Wegovy. That's what she said she was on. But here she's saying Ozempic. So I'm going to guess she's just using the terms interchangeably at this point. So here we are. Because, like I said, the Novo Nordisk thing was in 2023-ish. Well, her surgery was in 2023. She's saying this occurs after the surgery. Again, timelines, wibbly wobbly. So I guess we'll find out.
The barriers to my activity had suddenly been reduced. So it didn't hurt as much to kneel, or all of my joints used to hurt really bad. So she began to see that that was a little weird. That was another kind of weird behavior. And this starts a kind of trend of things just being slightly off. So she submits a swab.
The reduction of inflammation while using GLP-1s was actually noticed pretty early on. So why are you claiming that this is a weird thing? It literally was one of the first things people started noticing about taking one of, not the only, but one of the first things people started noticing about taking the GLP-1s for weight loss was this reduction in inflammation and pain. Why are you pretending like, okay, whatever.
Or genetic testing for what's called the Rare Obesity Panel. Now, this panel is not the same as the obesity gene panel that you see a lot of people are doing research on right now. These are for conditions that are classified as rare. So like the weird ones. My doctor basically sat me down and she said, listen, I've never had a patient have one of these genes personally, but it is something that we just want to eliminate because your body is not showing normal behavior. So went in, had my rare obesity panel done, and lo and behold, I come back with 2 genes. So essentially what happened when I got my
So, oh my God, you guys, she's not just special one time, she's special twice.
genetic results back is they give you a little counselor that sits down with you and walks you through.
I vaguely remember her talking about this. It's interesting because when she did leave a post about this on Instagram again, she originally mentioned she was throwing a fit because people had been calling her out for being on weight loss drugs. And she had up to this point basically been not denying it, but not talking about it. She was doing the whole like, I'm working out. I'm losing weight by working out. And everyone's like, no, that's not how it works. You must be taking something. So she finally came out and she threw a temper tantrum about being called out for taking weight loss drugs, along with other things. She still claims to have Hashimoto's during this post that I'm remembering. But then she also like throws in there, I have 2 rare obesity genes, meh. And then that was the original post. And then she alters it and she takes out the mention of Wegovy. She takes out the name of the weight loss drug. So she takes out Wegovy. She just says weight loss medication. And then, or medication for weight maintenance, I think she said. And then she took out the section entirely where she talks about having unique obesity genes, her two rare obesity genes. So again, all of this is on Instagram. So now if you go back and you find that post, it's not going to mention the obesity genes. And I think it just says something like weight loss management or something like that. Or weight management, not weight loss. God forbid she lose weight. So this is interesting to hear her talking about because she kind of scrubbed that out of even her Instagram, which again is where she usually goes to hide this kind of shit. So she can be like, no, I totally posted about it, you guys. But like no one sees it because, again, smallest platform. Anyway.
Your genetic tests and what they mean. One of the genes is a known gene. It has a lot of different things associated with it. And then additionally, they were like, oh, by the way, these are so rare. No one will ever research them. So good luck. Have a nice day. Goodbye. Like that's literally what they told me. And my doctor there was like, I'm not a geneticist. So we can try things. We can figure out what we can do. But I can't guarantee that it's going to work because at this point, we don't really know. I haven't seen this before. I don't have any previous experience to go off of. She talked to some of her colleagues at a variety of different places. No one had seen the combination of the 2 genes. So there was just really nothing to go on as part of what do we do. About 7 years prior to this, I got an email from a woman and she wrote me an email and was like, I think you have this condition called lipedema. And I was like, it is so nothing to go on as part of what do we do. About 7 years prior to this, I got an email from a woman and she
7 years prior to whatever she's talking about. That post was made in 2024. So 2017. So we're talking about 2017, which would be the first year she was making YouTube videos. First or second year she was making YouTube videos. Just putting the timeline together for people. As Anna is giving it to us.
He wrote me an email and was like, I think you have this condition called lipedema.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, it is so uncool to try to diagnose somebody on the internet. And
It is.
Unfortunately talked mad shit about this woman behind her back. And I feel bad because at that point, I just was sick of people.
Anna talks mad shit about people behind their back? I would not have guessed that.
Telling me what they thought about my health. And so I totally tuned it out. I didn't even believe it was a real condition. I think I need to say that. I need to say that I thought it was something made up. Like made up, like, you know, hey, you're delusional. I'm just going to tell you that this is your diagnosis so you stop bothering me, like a pseudo diagnosis. When I started going through this medical process, that word came up again. And I was like, the made up disease. They're just telling me that because they don't want to say we don't know why you're fat. Instead of saying that, we'll give you a fancy, shiny word. You'll feel better about it, but it's just.
And yet, oddly enough, in 2024, Anna starts using the word lipedema to basically excuse the fact that she's fat. It's not fat, you guys. It's lipedema.
Because we don't know. And that's literally what I thought for a very long time. So when I went to the obesity specialist doctor, I did bring up lipedema with her, mostly because I had received that email before. I'd had other doctors allude to that potentially being a problem, but did not understand the condition enough to actually say for sure if it was. And I just wanted a diagnosis. Sometimes you just want someone to tell you, like, yep, that's it. So you feel a little less crazy. So I brought it up with her and she was like, yeah, like immediately, yeah. And then I was like, you're just gonna say yes. And she's like, well, we'll do a couple things, but yeah. It was kind of one of those things where like it's pretty obvious I have it because I don't have any weight on my hands and my feet with how big I am, and because I have orange peel texture, because I have certain ways of accumulation, because it's completely symmetrical, because it's in certain parts of my body. There's just a lot of things that indicate.
So lipedema is, most fat that accumulates in the body. We have peripheral fat. We have something called visceral fat, which is on the insides in our organs. And lipedema is a condition where the fat gets almost clumped together in a way that it will never go away with diet and exercise.
So this is where there starts to be major differences between the US definitions of lipedema and the international definitions of lipedema. The international lipedema specialists recognize that lipedemic fat is not a thing. It's just fat. Lipedema is the disorder, and it requires there to be the fat deposits, but also you have to have pain associated with the fat, right? And again, with the international standards, lipedema is almost always associated with obesity. Almost always, all right? So I know someone's going to get in here and be like, oh, I have a skinny friend. Okay, cool. We're not talking about your friend. So that's what the international standards are. The US standards not only say that lipedemic fat is different than normal fat, that it is separate, that lipedema is separate from obesity, which is completely counter to what the international standards say. In his interview with Dr. Bertsch, Colin asked him about this, and Dr. Bertsch was like, there's no such thing as lipedemic fat because the laws of physics you can't create something from nothing. So basically, lipedema internationally, it's just the disorder. Like your fat, the fat is lipedema, right? There's no lipedemic fat. Your fat becomes painful and excruciatingly painful, apparently. And that's when treatment needs to begin. But the treatment for that is treating the obesity that goes along with the lipedema. And treating the obesity causes weight loss, which causes a reduction in the lipedema, right? This is in the international standards. The US standards say once it becomes lipedemic fat, it can never be burned. You can never get rid of it. And the only way to get rid of it is through liposuction and surgery. Sounds weird, huh? You can't diet it off. You can't get rid of it on your own. It doesn't have to hurt. You don't have to have pain associated with it here in the US. You just have to have fat deposits, right? That's it. As we saw with Anna's evaluation. Like, yeah, okay, I can believe that Anna has lipedema on her hips and her upper thighs. Like, sure. But they also want me to believe that she's got it in her stomach and her arms? Okay. Anyway, so it's that kind of stuff. Like, the US standard for what lipedema is, the US definition of what lipedema is and how to treat lipedema is so radically different than how it is overseas. And overseas is literally every other country, every country but ours. That's how they treat lipedema. They treat it as an obesity-related disorder. Their first treatment is to get you to lose weight. Whatever you can't lose through weight loss, then they will consider. Well, they have other treatments. Like they do the compression garments. They do. I don't think they do the MLD. They don't do the MLD because there's no lymph involved. It's just lipedema. What was the other differences? Do they use the compression garments? I can't remember. They do some similar things to us as far as like conservative treatments, as we call them here. But the major treatment for them is weight loss. And Dr. Bertsch is very kind about this when he talks about it, because he talks about how people who are, especially women, who are overweight and they come to his clinic and they want to be treated for lipedema. He's like, you know, if the fat isn't painful, like if the fat itself is not causing pain, it's not lipedema. It's just fat. He's like, but people, especially women, will come to the clinic and they're concerned about their overall appearance because of these fat deposits. He says, and we need to be, he talks about being gentle and being understanding that the pressure of societal norms and beauty standards cause some people to have this negative outlook on their own bodies. And so they're judging they want their fats to be easily taken care of or be something that's outside of their control, because then it excuses the fat. And he's very nice about it. Like, he's very compassionate about it. He's German, so he's also very blunt, but it's very nice to hear him talk about that. Here in the US, they're basically like, oh, you don't have fat you like? Oh, it must be lipedema. Hey, let's go suck it off your body. Woo. It seems to be the way it goes, right? We look at Anna's treatments for lipedema and we look at Jordan's treatments for lipedema. Jordan was on Medicaid. Anna is not. Anna has private, as far as I understand, Anna has private insurance. Jordan couldn't afford the insurance, and Jordan couldn't afford the surgery, and the insurance wasn't going to pay for it. So all Jordan could do, Jordan Underwood, was the conservative treatments. So the leg wrapping and the compression garments, and they were doing water therapy, because apparently the water therapy gives a similar experience as wearing the compression garments. What else did they do? Oh, they changed their diet and they lost some weight. I'm not going to sit here and say Jordan became a skinny legend, because he did not. He is still very much overweight. He is very much still a major player in BOPO and fat acceptance and all of that. However, Jordan's legs have definitely changed in their appearance since these treatments started to be used. I don't know if Jordan has the leg pumps. I think he does. I think he did get them. I think there was a clip of him on his TikTok using them. But the difference is that Jordan was told all these conservative treatments, and Jordan was like, oh, I hate this, and complained about fat phobia, right? He bitched and moaned about this stuff. Still went on the diet, still did all the treatments, and has had remarkable results. Anna, who has private insurance, didn't do any of the conservative shit. She was told in 2017 that she had lipedema, has done nothing, and immediately jumps to surgery as her solution to it. Oh, that's the other major difference. The US sees lipedema as a progressive disorder, meaning that it is going to get worse. The international standards do not see lipedema as a progressive issue. They see obesity as a progressive disease. So obesity, if untreated, will get worse, but lipedema will not, right? Lipedema can be reversed in the international standards. The US standards, we don't believe that, apparently. The US standards as written by Karen Herbst. Just want to put that out there. So anyway, yeah. I just needed to have all that out there before we get any further into this. This doctor, I'm going to guess, Dr. Karen Nance, or her name's not Karen. I don't know. Dr. Nance here, she is obviously going off of the US standards and does, I don't know. I don't know if she'll bring up the international standards, because I've never heard Anna talk about international standards. I've heard Jordan talk about it. Jordan was trying to go to a lipedema treatment center that was in Germany and couldn't afford to go because the insurance wasn't going to pay for it and they couldn't pay for it out of pocket. So even then, Jordan was looking for treatment outside of the United States. Anna just went for surgery. Anna just is trying to shortcut it. And we're finding out, as Anna is putting weight back on, the reasons why the international doctors don't want you using don't want you using liposuction to treat quote unquote lipedema. And it's because the fat will, it's not even that it's redepositing. Fat's like a balloon. You blow it up or you let air out, right? So the fat cells that she has left, those are now the cells where fat is being stored, right? Like the molecules of fat are being stored inside those fat cells. And so those fat cells are now expanding to take on the work that the fat cells that she had sucked out of her no longer can do, because they don't come back either. Once you lose fat cells, as far as we understand right now, this could change too. But as far as we understand right now, once you lose fat cells, they don't come back. And once you have fat cells, basically you're born with the fat cells you're going to have, and your fat cells just basically expand and contract. I could dig up the podcast for you guys. I probably should, because this dude is an actual doctor. He can explain it better than I can. But anyway, that's kind of the gist of it. Anna had a bunch of her balloons sucked out. And so now when she gains weight, the cells that are left are the cells that have to take that weight on. And so she's getting abnormal and weird growth of her fat cells in weird areas, including her abdomen and her joints, which is exactly what the international standards said would happen. Anyway, am I done ranting? Yeah.
So it's a type of fat that is different from the normal fat in your body.
I guess that was my point. Internationally, it is not a different kind of fat. In the US, it is viewed as being a different kind of fat. I don't know how they tell the difference, to be perfectly honest with you. If the international standards say that there is no difference, I don't know what we're seeing here in the States that makes us believe that it is. I don't know. Again, I will refer to Colin's videos, his big video and his interview with Dr. Bertsch. I will refer people to that. Maybe the answer's there, but like, I have no idea why we have such different definitions. I know why our treatments are so radically different, and it's mostly about money. I'm sorry, it is. So there's that, but I don't know why we have such weird definitions about what lipedema is here in the United States compared to literally everywhere else.
And doesn't respond to the typical ways how fat expands and
that's
decreases.
Only here in the
so
US.
It primarily accumulates on the thighs. Sometimes it can accumulate on the arms, but the character of the fat is also different. So whereas most fat is yellow and spongy, lipedema is typically more hard and isn't as mobile as regular fat. Lipedema,
again, this is a US thing, not an international thing.
Difficult to differentiate between what is lipedemia and what is just, say, fat as part of general obesity. But specifically, lipedema does not respond to the general ways of how to decrease fat. And so
you can't tell the difference between them. Okay.
You may be doing a lot of exercising and a lot of dieting, and you may never lose that fat.
And I think on top of that too, I live a very public life. Everybody has the ability to see and comment on my life. So when I started talking about potentially having this condition, I received so much backlash that it must be just made up, which is crazy. Like, I am an adult woman with a good education, and still, when enough people tell you that you're crazy, you begin to wonder if you're the problem. So
I don't understand what A, your adulthood, and B, your education has to do with anything. I really need people to step back from this idea that just because someone has a college education, that they are somehow smarter or better than people who don't. It's a weird thing to think. I have, my degree is in anthropology and a concentration in archaeology, because that's what I did after I left college. I worked in archaeology. So I'm fairly well versed in that. I'm confident in my knowledge of those two things. Somebody asked me something about some field. This was early in my channel. Asked me something about something, and I was just like, I have no idea. That is not my field. I couldn't comment. I mean, I can give you my personal opinion, but I am in no way qualified to talk about that. You know, I guess I should have specified at the beginning of this, I am not a medical doctor. And I think I say that multiple times. I have opinions, but I'm not a medical doctor. And just because I have a college education doesn't mean I'm smarter than somebody else. Okay? I really need people to get off of that. It's very elite. I dislike it. It's like the accent shit. Somebody was on me about my accent the other day, and I'm just like, okay, have you never heard someone else talk? Like, it doesn't matter what my accent is. It doesn't make me more or less intelligent. And to have that idea or that opinion is really concerning, especially in today's modern age. The fact that we still think that an accent denotes intelligence. But anyway, like, people like to come after Anna. Like, she says body and she says a couple other things. She sounds like she's from the UP. it's a regional accent thing, but yet people want to get on her about it. It's just like, why are you on her about the way she pronounces words? It's not like Amber. Amber purposefully mispronounces words. Like, Amber purposefully says things wrong because she either thinks it's cute, she, whatever reason, likes the way it sounds, or she's trying to get a rise out of her audience, right? Those are the reasons why Amber purposefully mispronounces words. Like her whole buffet thing that she was on for a while. It's a buffet. I like to say it buffet. Okay, well, you're saying it wrong, but whatever. At least you're aware of it. Anna's accent isn't a reason to be going after her for things. And Anna, to turn this back around onto Anna thinking that her college education and her age somehow protect her from criticism or somehow make her more intelligent than people, A, not her age, and B, without her level of education, it's elitism and it's gross and we need to stop doing it. Anyway, off that soapbox, let's go.
Obesity doctor did officially give me that diagnosis and was basically like, I'm out of my depth at this point. You need to go see a lipedema specialist. So we did some research. We picked a couple doctors, which I then flew to LA because they were all in LA, the ones that were pretty active in research. So I go to LA, I go see this doctor.
Dr. Karen Herbst is in Arizona. She's the big one. She's in Arizona. So if you wanted to see the big name that you claim your doctor recommended you to go see originally when you were posting about this. Like, okay, anyway. You went to see Amron because he was in California.
And he's like, whoa, you got real bad lipedema. Like, it is real bad. You need to have surgery sooner rather than later. Now, I've got to go back to that feeling about lipedema. I still, at this point, even though I was posting about it, talking about it, because I was trying to justify my body, but internally, deep down inside, I still was like, is this a made-up illness? Is this a doctor in LA who wants to sell me plastic surgery? Because also that is what I heard from a lot of people online. I heard every single...
That's because he was. I don't think lipedema is made up. Obviously, it's not. International standards exist. It's recognized outside of the United States. So it is a thing. It's just definitions and treatments and ways of diagnosing it are completely different in the international waters than they are here in the US. So again, maybe Anna does have lipedema. I don't know. That's up to the doctors. But I do know that the standards for diagnosing and treating it are completely different here in the US versus overseas. But anyway.
Day about how I was taking the easy way out and that I was cheating and that I was going to this doctor to magically fix my problems rather than, diet and exercise, calorie in, calorie out solutions. And so I grappled with that even through the surgery process, but I mentally decided if I knew I couldn't lose weight by making the healthy choices I'd made, then what was wrong with trying to get to a better body in this route? I just wanted to feel alive again, because I think once you have a taste of that lifestyle and you're like, wow, if it was just like 25% better than this, then what are all the things I could do? Because I was still limited, right? So I was like, well, what if I can open up just more activity, more movement, more living? And I think one thing that has always bothered me, going back slightly to the plus size community, is they never talk about that loss of living. Let's throw all of the thing about healthy or unhealthy out about bigger bodies. Let's throw all of that out. Let's say that there is literally no health difference. There is a loss of experience and a loss of living that comes from living in a bigger body. So we proceed down the surgical route. We get in for my first surgery and he goes, wow, your skin's really hard and fibrotic. He goes, still looking at you, I think I'm going to get in there and I think I'm going to need to take 6 liters or something. He gets in there and
Anna well documents this lipedema journey from here on out. She documents it on Instagram. She documents it on TikTok for the most part. She has longer form documentary style videos that she puts up on her YouTube channel. So this is all very front and center. You can see it. So yeah, so from here on out, if she tries to change the story from here on out, this is all within the last 6 months, 7 months now, right? Her first surgery was in August. I don't know. I just want to point out, like, if she starts to change the facts of the story at this point, she really is. I mean, she's been revising this thing from the beginning of this episode. But from this point forward, she's got a lot of eyeballs on her. And yes, she has received a lot of criticism, and her doctors have received a lot of criticism. And that's why we have Colin's 3.5-hour documentary about lipedema, the international standards, Karen Herbst. It doesn't get into Amron so much, but that's because Amron's not really that important to the story. But that's why we know there's this huge gap between the US standards and the international standards. And then Colin also was able to do a interview with Dr. Bertsch. Fit and Full Fat also she compiled all of her Anna videos together, and I think it's also like around 3 hours long, but it's a bunch of compilated videos. But it's when you see all of these in order and you hear what Fit and Full Fat has to say about things, because Fit and Full Fat also went through and looked at the international standards. I guess they put out a series of educational videos that you can watch, and I do mean to go do that, but Fit and Full Fat did do it. And Fit and Full Fat pointed out at various points the major differences in treatment and diagnosis within the international standards compared to how the US was handling this. So from here on out, the audience is very well educated. And it feels like at times the audience is better educated about this than Anna is. Now, the reason the audience is educated is because Anna decided to make this so public, right? If Anna had never mentioned this or anything like that, or it just been like one and done kind of a thing, I'm getting surgery, end of discussion kind of a situation, I don't think there would have been this deep of a dive into all of this. So on the one hand, Anna really has helped educate people about what lipedema is and treatments for lipedema and what is and isn't lipedema kind of a thing. So on the one hand, Anna has had that effect on the community at large, but it's not the way she wanted it to be. Anna wanted to be the proud lipedema warrior. She wanted to be the one who is saving people and educating people and yada, yada, yada. Kind of the reverse has sort of happened. Anna is kind of like the poster child for what it looks like to be bamboozled by the medical community. She's doing all of these like woo-woo bullshit things, taking weird supplements. I'm surprised she doesn't have crystals laying around her house. Nothing. I have a collection of shiny rocks. Do not come for me with the crystals thing. I like my rocks, but let's be real. It's just one of these kind of things. It's very strange. So on the one hand, yes, Anna has managed to educate the world or the girl world at large about what lipedema is. But not in the way that she was hoping to. She's not the hero of the story here. Anyway, all right. I need to go to the bathroom real fast, so I'll be right back. Doo-doo-doo-doo. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I'm halfway tempted to just kind of like not edit this whatsoever and just throw it up on the internet and just be like, look, suffer. I probably will edit it though, let's be honest. How long is this already? This is gonna be a long one. All right, anyway, where were we? We're so close to being done with this, aren't we? Sure.
Ends up taking 9 liters, and he said it was the most fibrotic he's ever seen.
He
anyone.
did.
So we're having a little bit of, what? That seems a little odd, but whatever. So we have the surgery. He removes way more. He says it's the most fibrotic patient he's ever seen. He said that my legs were literally like concrete under the surface. And I get through the first surgery and instantly my pain levels are entirely different. The first night in the recovery area, I'm dancing. I'm up.
She's still hyped up on pain meds. I just did a reaction to all of this. I think it's in the August and September review 2024 reviews that I did. I'll try to remember to link it. Anyway, my point is I just went over all of this crap. She is so stoned still from the pain meds that she was on during and after the surgery. So she's like, I'm completely pain-free. No, girl, you just can't feel anything yet. Like, I was pretty pain-free too after my surgery, and it was amazing, and they won't let me have any of that stuff when I'm not in the hospital. Because it's amazing. But anyway, my point is like, you feel good after a surgery. Well, okay, not every surgery. You feel good after those kinds of surgeries because the medicine's still in your system and you can't feel anything yet. Once it hits you, though, you know it's there.
My feet dancing because they tell us we have to walk. And the nurse has to be like, yo, calm down. And everyone tells me, oh, it's the pain meds. Once the pain meds come off from surgery, if you tell, bro, no, never went back.
You started bitching about pain almost immediately after you came off the meds. You waffled back and forth between, oh my god, I'm having a flare up, to, oh, I feel amazing. So whatever, girl.
I was just like, my life was instantly better. And I was like, oh my God. And I still didn't believe that this was a medical condition deep in my heart. I still thought it was just that. But that my legs were lighter, and that's why everything was better.
Uh-huh.
So, of course, I heal to the point where I can for the next surgery. I have my second round of surgeries. My second surgery was really intense. You get a lot of hormone release. So I got depression, but it was like weird because I've never been depressed. So it's not something I have ever dealt with.
Anna has never been depressed. So the weird hormonal imbalance that she had after having 11 liters of fat sucked off of her legs, that was the first time Anna's ever been depressed. Okay. Do you want me to go through all of your videos where you're crying and having a breakdown and talking about how depressed you are? Like, even before you even went in and had the surgery done? Do you need me to go back over 2012 where you talk about being depressed because, like, your weight loss isn't going as well as you were hoping it would go? Or you had to go home for the holidays, and of course the holidays are stressful for everybody. Really? Really? You've never been depressed before this surgery? Really? Okay, sure. All right. Let's go with that one. Sure.
When I decided to have surgery, I decided I would be public about it, cover most, if not all of it.
Class.
So while I was recovering from surgery, I started having these really weird comments about bagels. And I was like, I don't understand why I'm getting all these comments about bagels. And so I had to ask, what is going on in relation to bagels? I don't understand it.
You're going to bring up Bagelgate. Okay, let's do this. Let's dance. Put on your red shoes and dance the night. Let's sway.
So previously to having surgery, we recorded a video where my doctor had asked me to keep walking.
Oops, sorry.
To surgery, even though my pain had increased significantly because I'd gone off of the Wegovy.
Sure.
So I was no longer having any inflammation support. You also can't take Tylenol. So you're basically like SOL on any type of pain relief, but you need to stay active. So it's not a great time. It is not a fun party. You do not want to go to this event. So I was in New York and I was like, I really want this bagel. Because I have to walk, I'm going to make myself walk 2 miles to get this bagel. Right. And I was like, I'll make it a fun little YouTube video for anyone who's dealing with chronic illness. They'll get it. Pain days are the worst.
Sure.
So I walk, and at various times during this walk, I have to stop and sit down because I'm in pain. And we get to the bagel shop. It is literally just before close. I order my bagel and I'm like, I'm so happy. I did this. Look at me. I can do hard things, which is something I really told myself a lot during this journey. You can do hard things. So I was like so excited. I was like, let's just take a cab home so I can eat this laying down because physically I don't want to move anymore. So we get our bagel, we get in the cab, we drive home. I get home to the hotel. I'm filming myself unwrapping it, and it's not the bagel I ordered.
Yep.
It's not the bagel.
And then I had a mental breakdown.
I walked 2 miles.
Keep going.
Now, to set context here, I'm having surgery in 2 days. I've been off of all of this medication that helps me stay regular in a lot of different ways. So I am a hormonal nightmare, right?
Okay.
I'm also...
So what was causing the hormonal imbalance? You being off your meds that you don't need because it's actually lipedema, or you having the fat removed that caused the hormonal imbalance? Because it sounds to me like you're just blaming everything on hormones right now, but go on.
A lot of pain. So I just start bawling over this bagel, right?
Yep, you sure
I just
did.
am like literally buckets of tears because I am, this is all the stress of my first surgery coming out. This is all the hormones that are rolling around in my body. This is everything coming out. This is the pain I'm feeling because you know, it hurts. So I am crying over this bagel and I was like, I just wanted this bagel, right? And then the next day I order the bagel and that's the end of the video. And I'm like, I got it. It's fine, right?
Okay, so what Anna's not telling you about this video, which you can go watch, by the way, it's still up on her channel. She's not bringing up how she verbally abused the cotton candy guy on her way to go get this bagel, and then wolfed down a giant cotton candy, somehow managing to get it all over her shirt, and then decided to strip off of her shirt in the middle of New York and flip it inside out because she didn't want to walk around with a food stain. How the fuck she got it on her shirt? Still, she literally, if you watch the video, she literally like presses it into her shirt. And that's how she got the cotton candy on her shirt. Like she put the cotton candy on her shirt and then strips her shirt off and flips it inside out. And her excuse is, it's New York. They're used to weird shit. Okay, but you still like stripped the top. You still took your shirt off in the middle of a New York street. It's weird. Sorry. And then she proceeds to not once, but twice make fun of children who were doing dance routines on the street like they do. And they've got a little bowl out to collect money. I've seen this kind of thing before. And instead of just walking past them and saying nothing, Anna decides to make fun of them because she doesn't think they dance very well. And it's like when your little baby cousin comes up to you and goes, look what I can do. Look what I can do. And then she proceeds to go, who's going to give them money? Nobody. Okay. And that doesn't count when she was in Grand Central Station and she wanted to take a selfie of herself and her dog in the very center of Grand Central Station. But there was another guy who was there already. And she stood there for like 10 seconds and then threw a temper tantrum because she couldn't take the picture anymore. And she was over it. And then she just storms out of Grand Central Station. So stripping down naked, getting verbally nasty with the cotton candy guy because he wasn't there and open when she wanted to buy the cotton candy, making fun of street performers twice, and then doing a stupid little dance herself when she gets to the bagel shop. Girl. And then being just very first person-esque when you're at Grand Central Station. What else did I miss? What else did I miss? There was a lot in that video. The cherry on top of this video is when Anna gets back to her hotel room and decides to film herself having a breakdown over the fact that she just snatched up an order, didn't check to make sure it was her order, and bolted out of the bagel shop. By the way, she doesn't mention that she gets to the bagel shop while they're closing. Right? She is literally one of the last customers there. So her and whoever this other order was, they were one of the last people there because the shop's trying to close. And Anna, instead of checking her order, grabs an order and runs off with it and gets back to her hotel room and finds out that she grabbed the wrong order. And somehow that's the bagel shop's problem. By the way, I had a friend get me a bagel from that exact bagel shop and got me the olive cream cheese with it. And it is excellent. Very, very delicious. I get why people like New York bagels. But anyway, so the reason why Anna received so much criticism for the Bagelgate, which she calls Bagelgate, by the way, she's the one who hashtag Bagelgated it. No one else. That was Anna. The reason why she got so much shit for it was making fun of children, being a public nuisance, stripping down in the middle of a street, and just in general being an unpleasant person during this 2-mile walk in New York. That's why Anna received so much kickback from that video. To this day, apparently, Anna wants everyone to believe it was because she was a fat chick eating a bagel on camera. No, it has really nothing to do with the bagel. You could have been doing anything. And the way you behaved on your way to go get said bagel is the problem, not the bagel. The bagel was just the cherry on top. You crying over having the wrong bagel after getting back to your hotel room when it was clearly your job to check and make sure that was your bagel and you didn't. That's why no one likes this story. That's why it's one of your most watched and least liked videos on YouTube. That, Anna, is the problem. But you refuse to acknowledge this. Absolutely refuse it. And then 2-3 days after this video goes up and she starts getting all this backlash for her shit behavior, she puts up a Instagram story of her with this shit-eating grin and she's smearing Philadelphia cream cheese on these pumpernickel bagels. And she wants to make it sound like she was just sent 12 dozen bagels from this other bagel shop in New York that is a competitor to the bagel shop that she got the wrong bagel from, you guys. I see what you're doing there. And then she's the winner because she's got a dozen pumpernickel bagels that she's going to sit there and eat by herself? You're winning, Anna. You're winning. Okay. I just want everybody to understand the context of this video that she's trying to paint as her being a victim. Because knowing the context of this and going back and watching the video, you can watch this video on her channel still. It's not like the Target video that she deleted, right? So you can still go watch the bagel video. As far as I understand, it might change, but right now you can still go watch the Bagelgate video on her channel. It's knowing that she twists the story in a way to make herself sound like the victim and the underdog and the hero of the story, when literally everyone has pointed out to her multiple times on multiple platforms why they were so upset about her behavior in that video. This is why I say Anna is an unreliable narrator. She lies. Okay? She lies by omission. She will not take responsibility for her shit behavior. The Target video, she goes to Target and proceeds to destroy a Target. Just throw shit around, undresses a mannequin, has like a little joygasm in the chip aisle because she finds all the junk food protein chips. It's very weird. She got so much backlash from that she took it down immediately, right? Still has yet to apologize for her behavior in that video. Will not do it, and will not acknowledge that the Target video even exists. Like, the only reason we know it exists is because somebody screen captured it and shared it on the internet, right? It's just this kind of shit. This is why Anna is an unreliable narrator. You cannot trust what she has to say, because she's going to try to twist it to make it sound like she is the victim and she is the underdog and we're all just being mean. No. We're pointing out things that were unacceptable for an adult woman to be doing in New York. You do not go around as an adult of any variety and make fun of children for dancing in the street. I don't care if they're panhandling or not. I don't see you doing it. And Anna, it's not like your dance skills are any better than these children, because we've seen them. And people seem to give you money for it. What makes you special? Oh, I'm sorry, you're an influencer, my bad. Anyway, go on, Anna. I'm over it now. Play.
So they pick this video up and they make so many videos about fat girl cries over bagel.
Nope, that's not what happened.
And they turn it into a fat girl doesn't get what she wants and so she cries.
Nope, that's not what happened.
They erase the entire part about the fact that it had literally nothing to do with the bagel.
You're right.
The bagel was just the thing that I was crying about, but it was like very
bagel.
It's not about. And this is what people started to say. So people started commenting Bagelgate, and then started commenting it was never about the bagel.
Nope, you did that.
So
you
this
did the
turned into
Bagelgate.
this whole thing where people are just talking about bagels vaguely around me, and I have no clue what's going on, right? And they knew I was in surgery. They knew that I was having this major surgery.
No,
and that's
we didn't.
The thing they decided to go in on is that I cried.
Literally no one knew she was having surgery because we didn't know where in the timeline this video had occurred, because Anna doesn't tell us shit. So no, we didn't know she was getting ready to have surgery. Well, we knew she was going to have surgery, but we didn't know it was 2 days away or something stupid like that. So, excuse you? You're the one who hashtag Bagelgate, like literally. You're the one who is literally standing here saying that people were telling you it wasn't about the bagel, but oh my God, it has to be about the bagel. No, Anna, no. I'm sorry, no. Go on. So this is why you have to go back and be like, way back when she was like, oh, I had to leave New York because people were attacking me on the streets because of a picture that Gillette used with my permission and some podcast talked about. Did that even actually happen? Like, that's the problem. I know what happened during Bagelgate. I was here. I am one of the people she's talking about. Right? So if this is how she's deciding to twist this story on air on her podcast, let's go all the way back to the Gillette story. We know Gillette used the picture because there's evidence of that. But everything else is just Anna telling a story. Can we even trust it? Did it even happen? Why did Anna actually move out of New York? She could have just been like, I'm tired of living in New York. I want to go live in Texas. Cool, whatever. I don't care. But you're saying it's because you got attacked when you were walking down the street in New York. Did you? Is that really what happened? Did anything even remotely close to that actually happen? You can't trust what she's saying. She's lying this entire fucking story to this woman's face. I know she is. I was there. Like, okay. So now that I know that you're doing it, and I can point out that you're doing it, and I can show the audience listening to me that you did it, what can I trust that comes out of your mouth? What can I trust that Anna says without actual evidence of it happening? What can I trust that she says? That's the problem. This is the problem that Anna makes for herself, right? But since this woman doesn't know that, and since this is not being put out on YouTube or on TikTok, where she gets most of her criticisms, which is YouTube, not TikTok. But anyway, she's putting this on Instagram where she has her smallest interactions, her smallest audience. She's burying this as much as she can, right? She's going to get away with this because the people that are listening to this are not people who know her. They're not people who have followed her story. And this podcast, the Medical Detectives, is actively deleting comments that have anything negative or contrary to say about Anna and her story. And it doesn't even have to be nasty negative. It just has to be like, no, that's not what happened, and you know it, or hey, that doesn't sound right, or I have a question about XYZ. Just if it's not somebody's telling her how wonderful this is, or how great this is, or sharing their own lipedema stories, which is great, you should be able to do that. But but if they say anything negative in that lipedema story, or if their lipedema story doesn't match up with Anna's lipedema story, they're deleting the comments. And I know this because somebody's screen capturing these things and sharing them in the Discord. So you can see that there was a comment and it's not there anymore. Anyway, it's just very, very important that people understand that that is what's happening right now. Anna is rewriting a story that you can clearly go watch with your own two eyes. I can tell you as somebody who was there for it that this is what happened and this is why people were being critical of her. She refuses to believe it, or at least refuses to admit it. She's trying her damnedest to twist the story in a way that makes her sound like the victim when it wasn't about that at all. And she even admits that she's been told that. And because of this, what can we trust that she has said up to this point? Unless there is visual evidence of it, what can we trust about what she has said up to this point? I was pointing out how she rewrote shit from the early 2010s, right? From 2012 and 2013. She's rewriting shit, right? This is just the most blatant example of it. And I do wonder if now that this podcast has come out and she's brought up Bagelgate, which by the way, she named it Bagelgate. No one else did. She named it that. If now that she's brought this up, I wonder if that video doesn't get pulled down because it blatantly shows that that's not what people were complaining about in the video. The comments alone show that that's not what people were complaining about in that video. So what of any of this story now can we trust unless it's something that Anna literally shows us via video, right? We know she's going to change whatever she has to say to the point where she will literally go back and edit a post so that it says what she wants it to say after the fact. What can you trust? That is the problem. And Anna wants to sit here and be like, I'm the victim. What? Maybe you are, but I can't trust what you're saying. I can't. You change things. You alter things. You go back and try to rewrite your past, even when there's evidence against it, contrary to it. You're doing it right now. Hi. All right.
Over a bagel.
It wasn't about the bagel.
And I'm just like, y'all, I just had a major surgery. There was no compassion for me as a human being at all. And then
You had liposuction. It was not a major surgery. You weren't even fully put under. You were twilight sedated. You were put under harder when you went and had your DNC than you were for this liposuction. Okay? It's not okay. Anyway, whatever.
I begin to wonder, is it really worth going through this 2 or 3 more times? It's hard. Recovery is a process. Even with the great results I had from the first surgery, recovery from a major surgery is rough. So everything's kind of on pause, right? And I even paused and moved my surgeries a little bit later. And I honestly, my doctor's going to listen to this and be like, you were considering not doing your other surgeries. I'm sure of it. But I was, because again, I thought I was delusional. I still at this point thought that this was a fake condition, even though I was advocating for it and talking.
There is some chatter that Anna was denied her next 2 surgeries because she was supposed to have 4 surgeries in very close succession. She had her first 2. She started having issues, I guess, after the second one. People started noticing that she was regaining the weight that she had lost before her first surgery. And there was speculation, there's nothing to back this up, but there is speculation that her doctor, Amron, told her that she could not have the next few surgeries unless she lost weight again, because she's either too big or it's just not a good look for him because she's gaining weight. If it's lipedema and it can't be burned and she has no more burnable fat, then where's the weight coming from? Okay. Anyway, so that's the theory. There's nothing backing it up. It's just a theory that's out there in the community. And I just felt like people needed to hear it because Anna's making it sound like she's the one that decided to hold off on the surgeries because she was getting such bad backlash from the public, you guys. She had her second surgery like 2 weeks after her first one, like 2 or 3 weeks after the first one. You were in so much turmoil, Anna.
About it, I feel like such a scam. So I started to have really, really bad inflammation post the second surgery. And I've always had issues with inflammation. It's always been part of the journey, but it became really obvious through this because they just took 22 liters total, so 50 pounds out of my body. And I was...
No. I think that's only like 20 pounds, but whatever.
Heavier than the day I went in for my first surgery. And that...
I guess she's talking about after her second surgery. So yeah, maybe it was 50 in total. Oops, I forgot to hit play.
It was crazy. Like, that was unusual. So they had me go see a specialist in Tucson. Her name is Dr. Herbst. So Dr. Herbst is a board certified endocrinologist that is actually researching the genetics related to fat disorders like lipedema, for example. And if you know anything about lipedema, she is the OG. She's the queen. She's the queen. And I go and see her.
Her name is literally on almost every research paper or medical paper that is published in the United States that has to do with lipedema. And I have gone on record several times talking about why that is such an issue. It is because should someone find something that is counter to Karen Herbst's opinion or Karen Herbst's final conclusions in her papers, it's very easy for her to squash it, right? Intentionally or otherwise. Also, when there tends to be someone like Karen Herbst, who is the OG, who is the commanding presence in a research area, and you have someone who might actually find something contrary to what her research shows, they might not come forward with it because it's contrary to her and they don't want to look like they're attacking her, or it's just kind of out of courtesy. They don't like, oh, I can't go after them. It's Karen Herbst kind of a thing. So it's actually not a great thing for her name to be on everything for these reasons, right? But it also says with her name being on everything means including the US standard of care for lipedema, means she has control over this field right now, right? She basically wrote the standards of care. She basically wrote the diagnostics for lipedema here in the US. She's written the treatments for it here in the US. She writes all of the research papers about it here in the US. So she basically controls what is and isn't lipedema and how to treat lipedema here in the US. Unlike Dr. Bertsch, who has a committee of doctors who are all considered experts in their fields, who contribute together to the study of lipedema and the treatments recommended for lipedema. So there's a committee of many, many minds in the international standards. In the US standards, there's Karen Herbst and a handful of other people, a good chunk of which are plastic surgeons and liposuction surgeons. So they're not even like medically practicing doctors. They're not research doctors, right? Unlike the international standards. So, and they are also doctors that have a financial reason to say, yes, cosmetic surgery, yes, liposuction. That's the only way to treat lipedema. Whether they're really doing it for that reason or not, it makes it suspicious, right? So there are major issues with Karen Herbst being the only name on most of the research, or being a name on everything in the United States that has to do with lipedema. I'm just putting it out there. I'm not the only person who says this. Again, I refer you to Colin Mockery's videos.
I'm still having all of this inside. I'm still debating if I'm going to do the other surgeries. I'm like, is this worth it? Is this just cosmetic? I'm starting to have, with the inflammation, a lot of exhaustion and stuff like that, which is natural with inflammation. So she does two things that caused the aha moment for me. She's like, I'm going to do some, I don't know the name of this, but it is a thing where they do thermal imaging to see how congested your veins are. So they take pictures and it shows.
She scanned Anna's arm with her Apple iPhone using a downloaded free app from the Apple Store, and was looking at heat signatures in Anna's arms and was saying the areas that were the warmest were the most congested. She does later give Anna, like, it looks like some kind of like ultrasound or something on her arms and whatnot. So there is that. But what Anna's talking about right now, again, Anna has documented all of this on her channel. What Anna's talking about right now, Karen Herbst is using an iPhone app to thermally scan Anna's arm. Don't ask me how it works. I don't know. Other people found out that it was an iPhone app. There you have it.
It was almost like a heat map where your veins are enlarged and trapped.
Mm-hmm.
So she does thermal imaging of my body, lets me see it, and I can see everywhere that I haven't had surgery is bright purple. On my hands, my feet, my face, and the places I had surgery, I have no congestion. So
no, pretty sure the clips that you showed us, I don't remember seeing a lot of bright purple. I remember your arms being yellow and red, and I remember your legs being yellow and red, and I remember her saying the congestion. I remember her saying your legs look good, and you responding with they better. So there's that.
She looks at this thermal imaging and she's like, wow, you're super congested. We talk about some of the areas I have pain. We can see corresponding congestion in that area. She points to a bump on my arm, which I thought was a fat roll. I'm going to be very real with you. I thought it was a fat roll. It's right here, like where you can see kind of like a bump coming out of my arm. And she goes, I don't think that bump is fat. And I was like, oh, it's gotta be fat. And she goes, no, that's not fat. So she pulls out an ultrasound and she shows me what's going on under there. And it is a vein that is, I guess, leaked, and sitting under here, and this is the area I haven't had surgery at, I'm having in January, is just a giant pool of plasma that is just sitting in my body, and you can see it. It's wild.
Yes, Karen Herbst says on this ultrasound that shows like 4 inches of fat. So like my finger length worth of fat between Anna's skin and Anna's muscle. Putting that out there. She tells Anna that there is a blood vessel that is leaking into the surrounding adipose tissue. Okay. I cannot tell you how many people I've had in my comments section whose brains have apparently exploded over this statement. I'm just like, I don't think that's how that works. I'm not sure. But people who claim that they do know in my comments section, they're like, that is not how this works. And I'm just like, okay, I mean, look, I agree. I just can't explain to you why. And at first she told Anna that it was blood. And then Anna goes, there's blood? And she's like, well, not really blood, not red blood cells, just plasma. Okay, I was under the impression that plasma was part of blood, but here we are.
And that's when it clicked for me that this is a real illness.
Oh, that's when
this
it
is
clicked
a
for
real
you.
thing, because I saw in my body the congested veins,
Mm-hmm.
and I saw the pooling out in my arm.
Sure.
We also ultrasound.
I saw literally nothing in that ultrasound that would suggest there was anything pooling around what she was being told was a blood vessel. So just throwing that out there too.
I have different places that were not surgical yet, and saw that all of the lower veins in the body have been compressed and they're not able to work.
Not again.
And the blood is traveling through the top veins, which have now expanded and are engorged. So that's what's causing a lot of the pain and congestion in my body, is because my blood is moving through 1/8 of the veins it should be moving through.
Probably ties back to your anemia.
Yeah. Well, we're going to keep going down this because we're not done. So
anemia is the lack of iron in your blood. It's not the lack of vessels moving blood around your body. Am I wrong? I'm anemic. They want me taking iron supplements, which I do. It doesn't have anything to do with like a third of my blood vessels not working. I feel like that would be a really big problem. I feel like that would lead to like necrotic tissue. I feel like that's not something. Okay, anyway. My sim is building computer chips.
looking at all this, and she goes, let me take a look at your thighs. And she looks down at my thighs and she's like, oh my gosh, it's like teeth. I've never seen this before. And this is where I just had surgery. So I produce very quickly, or at least we see from this ultrasound, scar tissue. I produce scar tissue at a rapid rate because I had literally had surgery 3 weeks before. I should not have had the level of fibrosis that I had in my legs. And she literally...
Are you creating fibrosis or are you creating scar tissue? I feel like those are different things. Also, I don't know why you're surprised that you have scar tissue after they basically blew up your skin with water and then sucked out fat cells. I feel like that would probably cause some scar tissue.
Like, this is the woman that's seen every lipedema patient in the planet.
Uh-huh.
Looks at it and goes, oh my gosh, I've never seen this before, which is not what you want to hear, by the way.
A comforting feeling.
No, not a great feeling. And then she goes, I want to talk to you about your genes. And this becomes the first time I begin to understand what these genes do. So she pulls her computer aside. She sits me down. She says, I want to talk to you about your genes. And she goes, you have 2 very interesting variants, and they're both related to the same thing. And she goes, they're related to apoptosis. And I'm like, well, what the hell is that? And I will tell you, if you ever have a geneticist explain to you what something is, their dumbed down version will still be too hard to understand. Because I literally had to be like, can you give me an even dumber version? I have absolutely no clue what you're talking about. But from what I gathered, my dead cells do not properly leave the body, and they cause havoc. So that would explain scar tissue forming. It would explain estrogen that was supposed to be taken out of the body not leaving properly.
I'm sorry, you're what?
It would explain my dead cells do not properly leave the body.
So you have necrotic tissue that does not leave your body, and that's causing problems. I mean, I would assume that would cause problems. It's not good to have that in your body. When cells start to die en masse, that's typically a bad thing. I'm just going off of what I've learned from Chubby Emu. That's 100% Chubby Emu right there. Anyway, whatever. Keep going.
And they cause havoc. So that would explain scar tissue forming. It would explain estrogen that was supposed to be taken out of the body not leaving properly. It would explain inflammation problems, not having, clear routes to getting things out of the body.
Well,
how does having dead cells in your body explain how your estrogen isn't leaving your body properly? Anyway.
What's interesting is, and it may be something different, but I don't think so, but apoptosis.
Oh, that's what it is. Yes. Okay.
Apoptosis.
Sorry. So apoptosis is the process in which a cell dies.
Yes, that's it. Sorry, I honestly don't know anything yet.
Clears the cells. No, you were actually explaining it perfectly. And it is normal for all of our cells to go through this process of dying and then regenerating. That's in our bone marrow, right? That's
Yep.
where we generate new cells. And so it is normal for our cells to die. There are other cells in our body, primarily it's called the macrophage, which
She said that
is
word.
part of the immune
Yeah,
system.
this is how she tried to explain it to
that
me.
that then gobbles up those dead cells,
Right.
and then they go through the rest of your body, and they're cleared. But a problem with apoptosis means that those dead cells don't actually get cleared in the proper way, and so probably all of the cellular material is then what is contributing to the fibrosis. Which, for people who don't understand what fibrosis is, it's like a thickening and like a hardening of the tissues, almost like a woody characteristic, I guess would be the best kind of way to describe it. Similar to scarring. Scarring is supposed to be a regenerative process, right? It starts by you have a cut, you recruit inflammatory cells. If you don't recruit those, and that's why it gets a little raised and red and swollen, that's actually normal. That's part of the normal process. And then over time, that scar starts to thin out, soften over the period of a year. So there's an evolution. And it's all based on individual cell mechanisms that help with this evolution. So
I don't think evolution's the word you want, but go on. I mean, I'm following you so far.
it really does, as I said, a lot of it I think goes back to the genetics, which
I have literally heard other geneticists on podcasts talk about this, so I am willing to give her credence here.
we're only at the point where we are able to identify a lot of the issues. Now the next challenge is to say, okay, so now what do we do?
Exactly. So essentially, this is the person that is most
Well, I'm glad that Anna agrees with the doctor.
experienced in this, who has never seen this gene before. This pairing of genes, and they are both related to apoptosis. There's limited information, i.e., there's no medical research written about it. It's either been hypothesized or tracked in some way, but it's not like it doesn't. There's no knowledge of like other than it's related to this function, what it actually does. So now we know that these genes caused all my symptoms. The weight.
What?
Research written about it. Exactly. So essentially, this is the person that is most experienced in this, who has never seen this gene before. This pairing of genes, and they are both related to apoptosis. There's limited information, i.e., there's no medical research written about it.
The expert has never seen this pairing of genes before. There's no research about it. So how do you know it's doing anything?
Either been hypothesized or tracked in some way, but it's not like it doesn't. There's no knowledge of like other.
So Anna is a quasar. Anna is a white hole. Completely theoretical, never been seen, possibly not actually real. Anyway.
Then it's related to this function, what it actually does. So now we know that these genes caused all my symptoms, the weight stuff.
If you don't know what it does, how can you blame anything on these genes? There's no research. There's hypothesis. There's no research. There's no evidence. They don't know what it does. You've just got done telling us that nothing is known about these two genes other than you have them. And you're like the only person on the planet, apparently, who has this combination of genes. And even the Lipedema, goddess of the world, has never seen this combination. Okay, whatever, sure. Right. Everything that's wrong with Anna is these two genes that she and only she has. So yes, Anna does defy thermodynamics because Anna has thermodynamics denying genes. Done. All right. We can stop now. Everything has been explained to me. All right.
The anemia, the lipedema, the tumor, the thyroid issues, but we can't really do anything about it. So
Because obesity does not explain any of these things. Even though you have two genes that are directly apparently linked to obesity, your obesity does not explain any of these things, even though there's ample evidence that there is some link between obesity and all of the things that are wrong with you, including your lipedema, the anemia, and the DNC that you had to go have. I'm guessing she had fibroids pulled out, right? Okay, so obesity is connected to all of these things. Like there's a strong correlation, but Not for Anna. Not Anna. The obesity has nothing to do with anything with Anna. It's just these two obesity genes. Uh-huh. Sure.
The conclusion of my story now, and then it's kind of
oops, sorry.
A sad conclusion, but at least I have a team of people looking into it, is that I am, as it stands right now, I don't want to say a one of one because there's probably somebody out there that's also dealing with this, but
if there was, would you admit it? Would you give them credence? Would you be like, oh, twinsies? Or would you be like, no, I'm the only person in the village who has this problem? I somehow suspect that you would deny anyone else who came forward and said that they had the same problem you have. I suspect if there was someone who had the balls to do that, I suspect, especially if that person came forward and they weren't morbidly obese, I suspect that you would not believe them. I suspect that you would deny that they had the same issues you do. Anyway.
For most of the people I'm working with, I'm the only person they've seen with this.
So special.
This is all likely genetic.
I constantly say that Anna is terminally special. And I'm usually referring to like her bullshit stories about how she did something and everyone clapped and she was the most specialist special that ever specialed, kind of a thing. Now I'm saying it because of these weird genes that only Anna has. Where did you get them, Anna? Do they run in your family? Did you just mutate them? Are you a mutant? Are you the next evolutionary step? Genes don't come from nowhere. All right, anyway. And I have a dragon that lives in my garage. Do I own a garage? Do you know if I own a garage? You're just going to have to trust that I do. And in that garage, I have a dragon. Just me, though. I am the only person that has a garage with a dragon in it. No one else. I mean, if I did have a garage with a dragon in it, I probably would be the only person, but here we are.
Which was great to hear, but a little bit scary because it means it's more complicated. So we've begun the process of sequencing.
I bet you love the fact that it's more complicated because you have so much more to be like, everybody's being mean to me, to go on about.
My genes to start, and I'm going to mess this up because again, this is so out of my depth of understanding, but
no shit.
They're starting to try different pathways to try to understand how my body reacts. This makes sense. They keep saying we're going to run these pathways on it, and I don't know what that means, but it means that they're going to test and see.
So why are you crying?
I guess if they do this, does my genes do something different? I don't know, but the goal is to see what is happening with that. What was the word?
Apoptosis.
I keep calling it apoptosis, and I have been calling it the wrong thing. So apoptosis.
I just like the word apoptosis. It's fun to say. Dr. Herbst is also the same person that sent Anna home with an MRT test to take, which is supposedly a food sensitivity test. And I know I made a video about this not very long ago. I'm sure people have had MRT tests and they're like, oh my God, it saved my life. I'm sure you have. However, there's no actual evidence that these things are like real. Like they're not actually testing anything. So Dr. Herbst is also the same person that sent Anna home with a food sensitivity test that there's really no actual evidence that it detects or does anything. So just, throwing that out there. You would think a clinical doctor would be a little bit more skeptical of those kind of tests, but Amron's also the same one that sent her out with a shopping list worth of not just supplements like, iron and C and those kind of things, but also for like herbal supplements. And that's very odd here in the States. I don't know about other countries, but it's strange here in the States. And it's a red flag for me to have a doctor prescribe herbal supplements for you, especially for like, what the fuck was she taking them for? Anyway, here we are.
Apoptosis.
They want to see where else that's having issues, but they think that it's causing me to have stored estrogen. They think it's causing me to have that weird fibrosis that grows just really, really quickly.
Because it couldn't be the fat cells. Can't be the fat cells. Wouldn't be the fat cells doing that, or the obesity.
Explains why I kept gaining weight even when I was not having behaviors that would drive weight gain.
What kind of behaviors would drive weight gain, Anna? What kind of behaviors drive weight gain?
And it's also potentially a different way of getting lipedema because it's genetically related versus potentially hormonal. I mean, it's all genetically related, but it's a version that they haven't.
So Anna has special lipedema, very, very special lipedema that isn't like any other lipedema that has ever been studied. We're really doing this? You're really going to sit here and say that? Okay, cool. 10 minutes. We can do this.
Seen in this capacity. So it's an atypical case. I guess that's the easiest way to say it. And it is unresolved.
Anna is the first special case of lipedema ever in the US, which I guess would be true because in the US, stage 4 lipedema requires lymphedema to also be present. And Anna has been told by Karen Herbst, the goddess of all of this, that she does not have lymphedema at all. But she still has lipedema, so she's still lipedema. So she's still stage 4 lipedemic, but without the lymphedema, which is in the US standards. So Anna defies even the US standards for the diagnosis of lipedema because she has special genes that have made her lipedema not a hormonal problem, but a genetic problem. So it's definitely positively, absolutely nothing to do with her obesity because that would be hormonal, not genetic.
At least we know it's related to apoptosis. And anything I'm going to be doing at this point will help other people with issues with apoptosis in the future.
So your lipedema has to do with your apoptosis. I noticed that she hasn't mentioned that it's a connective tissue thing. And she hasn't brought up Ehlers-Danlos disorder. I apologize. Syndrome? EDS? Yeah, syndrome. I apologize on that one. She hasn't brought that up yet. There are still 5 minutes left of this podcast, so it could happen. But up until this podcast, Anna has really, really, really been pushing that she has hypermobility of her joints and that she has EDS and that she's just waiting to get an official diagnosis of it. And let's see, what else was it? Yeah, and that her lipedema, and this is something that Karen Herbst was telling her, as well as Amron, telling her that her lipedema is a connective tissue disorder, which is disputed by the international communities because it would just be better to go and watch Colin's interview with Dr. Bertsch because he explains why a lot better than I could possibly do. But anyway, sorry, my eyes are leaking. I'm crying, you guys. Okay, so, right. So it's interesting that during this entire interview, Anna has not mentioned hypermobility or EDS or connective tissue, which is something that she has been pushing like a freight train since she's gotten diagnosed with lipedema. Like, there are literal videos of her starting, "Hi, my name's Anna, and if you're new here, I have lipedema. Lipedema is a connective tissue disorder." Like, literally, that's how she starts those videos. All right? Anyway.
Again, that's not a common thing, but hopefully
nothing about you's common, Anna.
A geneticist that actually will look into it
terminally
is amazing
special
because that's hard. I was told I would never find one. And then also having the resources to financially be able to afford all of this. And I think, I hope as this series goes on, we talk about that a little bit too, because a lot of these things are not accessible and not affordable and not covered by insurance. Definitely.
Because a lot of these things are experimental, off-label, or just absolute. Don't get me wrong. I am not a fan of insurance companies. I think that they do dirty, dirty shit. But I am also not a fan of people that try to like bamboozle insurance companies because it just encourages them. It's like, anyway, my point is, I have a really close internet acquaintance who works with insurance, and so I'm trying to not be as negative about insurance as I have been in the past because this person's very nice. So, you know, whatever. But my point is, in the US, insurance is kind of a thing. But this also just kind of reinforces for me that Anna is getting some kind of kickback to afford this. And also that if Anna didn't somehow convince her insurance company to pay for these surgeries that she's been having, these liposuction surgeries, if she didn't get them to pay for it, she's getting an incredibly reduced price, if not free, from Amron and his cohort for exposure. They're using her for exposure, and she is using them for free surgery. That is me speculating, right? But her saying this whole thing about like accessibility and being able to afford it without saying something like, oh my God, it was so hard for me to afford it. Either you're not paying for it at all, which, I mean, if you have insurance and they do decide to pay for it, that is kind of the point. You don't pay for it out of pocket. Your insurance does. So there's that. But at the same time, I just remember the video of Anna trying to trying to work with the lady who was going to get her insurance to approve the lipedema, the liposuction treatment for lipedema. And it was very full of bullshit. It was very much a steaming pile of bull poop. So there we are. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. I don't know why you're removing items, but whatever. Are we home?
Not covered by insurance.
So how does it feel? I know it's been very, very recent. Knowing that your whole life, all of these struggles have been related to a genetic condition, something that you literally cannot control and had nothing to do with a lifestyle choice, or if you just had better habits.
I am still coming to terms with that. Even though I can only see the times in my life when I should have done better. I still, even with all of this, even though I now have accepted the condition, even though I now have this genetic insight and all of these other things, I still see every moment in my life when I could have done better. And there's still so much guilt and shame around choices that I thought could have been better.
You mean like when you deep throated a Serrano hot dog? Or sure, whatever.
And I have been publicly pushing myself to make choices that I once perceived as bad, because I think that I need to learn how to get over that shame, because it's not healthy to carry that burden. Even knowing it's not my fault, I still feel like it is. There is a community of doctors who still do believe that obesity is the individual's fault.
Is there? Is there really? Do doctors not know about it, or do they believe that it's the individual's fault? Pick.
And it's not like 10% of our population is overweight. It's like 60% of our population. All these people are getting overweight.
Yeah, that's a problem.
What is going on? Our
genetics have
genetics could be changing. Our food could be changing. Our environments could be changing.
Yes.
Our socioeconomic situations could be changing. What is causing people to gain weight? So let's take
food, inactivity, and yeah, socioeconomics do play a part in that. Genetics? No. I don't know how many times people need to hear this. Genetics loads the gun. You pull the trigger, right? You are the one who was given the tank full of gas to carry around with you. And until you strike a match to it, it's inert. Okay? I like my burning gas analogy. I think it's fun. But that's just like, no. No. Just no. Anna, no. It's like I'm yelling at my cat. No. No. And then the cat looks at me and goes, bop. That's exactly what Anna's doing. Anna's looking at me and going, bop. I have 8 million followers on TikTok. What do you have? A functioning brain, apparently. Anyway.
The morality out of it completely. Like, let's take the choice out of it and say it's not a person's choice. So if it's not their choice, if nobody would choose.
Nobody chooses to be fat. It's just air calories, you guys. The act of breathing causes you to gain weight. So we just need to stop breathing. And then we don't have to worry about weight gain anymore. Because clearly calories in, calories out does not work. Which is why every person who has ever been put on a drug that
enables that prevents them from being able to consume as many calories as they have been consuming, why every single one of those people has lost weight. Not calories in, calories out. I don't know what you would attribute that to, honestly, but also like every person who has ever had weight loss surgery where it prevents them from being able to eat vast amounts of food like they used to do, every single one of those people has lost weight as well. But still not calories in, calories out, you guys. It's the air calories. It's the air calories. Somehow that medicine and those surgeries somehow prevent air calories from absorbing through your skin and causing you to be obese. It's not the food. It's not the food. Don't worry about it. Just go eat, do whatever. Not the food. Obesity has nothing to do with calories. Ever. Just ignore all of the medical data. All of it. All of the medical data that proves that it does. Just ignore that. Just ignore that and just listen to Anna. Anna has magical genetics that make it so that she defies thermodynamics. Anna can't help it. And that's it. And we're all just magically fat because reasons. And none of us should take any kind of responsibility for our own health, especially any kind of responsibility for our overweightness or our obesity. Has nothing to do with anything that we do with our own personal lives. Check. All right, cool. Good to know. We're done. We're not done.
We have to start looking at this as something that's actually a medical issue.
Well, it is a medical issue. At least we can agree on that. Obesity is a medical issue.
Is punishing people. I have gone at great lengths to share my medical journey, which at times I've really regretted, to be honest. Like it's hard. And even
it is hard trying to sell a line of bullshit to people who refuse to believe it. I mean, it is difficult to be a charlatan.
With some of the best doctors in the world voicing it.
Really? Who?
On this, people still don't believe me.
Nope.
And sometimes I don't believe it, even though I do. Like it's this. I can't explain it. When you realize you're just this, your body is unusual. You're like, did they make a mistake? Was the genetics off? Was like what happened? Right? I guess
God decided that I needed to be the spokesperson for fat people everywhere. And so he bestowed upon me magical obesity genes that no one else anywhere in the world has. No one has ever seen them before. No one knows what they do. And there's no research studying them. But I know that they are what causes all of my obesity, my lipedema, and every other health issue that I have. It has nothing to do with the food I eat, my lifestyle, or the decisions I have made in my life up to this point so far. It's my magical genes bestowed upon me by God. I'm sorry.
I just don't want it to be true. And I think the harder part about this is like, I thought when I started the lipedema surgeries that it would just magically solve everything, or at least I'd get the body that I wanted and had tried for.
Gee, no one called that one. That's why you took the Ozempic. That's why you were on Wegovy. That's why you're having the surgeries. Anna will sit here until she is blue in the face and tell you that it has nothing to do with weight and nothing to do with vanity. And it has everything to do with weight loss and everything to do with vanity, because she will tell you that to your face. And then she'll make posts and say things and do shit like this. Oh, I thought it would be a magical cure. Huh. Did you then? It's just like, and then she goes and tattles on herself. She's as bad as Amber.
And I will get that body for some time, but because of
when have you? Okay, whatever.
The way my body builds fibrosis, it may not be for as long as I want it to be. And
she really does believe her fat cells are going to grow back.
The doctors suggest to me and encourage me to do, but when I really think about it, it's like I'm going to share something really sad, and I'm sorry I'm going to end this on such a sad note, but I was talking with someone the other week, and they were like, you're getting older. Are you concerned about not having kids? And I was like, I don't want to give them this.
God's sake.
And the reality is I can. And that's a hard thing to think about. That your genes are bad. And I often sometimes, I'm sorry, this is so sad. This is so depressing.
I'm sorry. This just pisses me off. Anyway, my eyes are watering, you guys. 5 minutes.
But I sometimes think about like am I meant to be alive? Because all these things don't work. And I know that that's just, me coming to terms with this, right? And dealing with this. And like,
Anna is the biggest victim that has ever been victimed, you guys. Oh my God. I'm so mad.
obviously I live at the time I do because I am meant to be alive and I'm meant to probably do this, but
Drive me
I
crazy.
still feel every day conflicted. I don't know if that'll ever go away.
I think because there's some part of your brain that knows you're full of shit. You feel conflicted because you know you're lying.
Because there's nothing I can do. There's nothing I can do better. And that sucks.
Imagine going through your life. Imagine going through your adult life believing that you have no control over any aspect of your life whatsoever. Imagine how incredibly bleak and frustrating and just whatever, right? I cannot imagine moving through life with the true belief that nothing I do matters. Like, I have no impact on my own life whatsoever. I cannot imagine moving through life like that. Even if it's not true. Even if we really are just a sim game and somewhere up there's some sadistic asshole like me controlling my little sim life, right? I still cannot imagine going through life with the sincere belief that I cannot control anything about myself or my environment. Like, that to me would be like the worst, honestly. I don't know how you would pull out of that spiral. And Anna wants to sit here and convince us that that's how she looks at life. She has no control over anything in her life. She cannot change anything in her life. That it is what it is, and all she can do is come to terms with it. There's nothing she can do to affect or change it. 4 minutes.
And as a type A person who just wants to optimize and fix, I can't optimize and fix this. Maybe I'll get lucky and someone will have a breakthrough, but maybe I won't. It's out of my hands. It's out of my hands.
Well, if I could jump through the screen and give you the biggest hug, because it takes true bravery to be this vulnerable, to be this public in order to serve the greater good by sharing your story so that maybe one person won't feel alone.
Yep.
I hope that doesn't get this
and
demonetized.
so
I'm not
many
taking that
just
out.
themes that for people who may not necessarily have lipedema or a genetic condition or an autoimmune disorder, just about what it's like living life with a chronic illness, what it's like feeling judged by your doctors, what it's like having to find new doctors, that I think so many people will be able to resonate with and really feel like their own feelings have been validated.
I think if I could end on a positive note, because I just feel like I just cried at the screen for a little while. I cried at the microphone for too long, and now I need to turn it around. Even though everything has...
But Anna doesn't cry very much, you guys. She's not a crier. She's on record saying that, by the way.
Been a lot, and it's, I found all of this information out in about 1.5 years, and that's a lot in a very short amount of time. I don't regret doing it, because if we go back to that
because now I have an excuse for all the things I don't want to change about myself.
first doctor's appointment, before we knew any of the other things we know now, even just my initial blood work, I may not have made it through without some help. I would have been in the hospital, and it would have been a much different journey. So even though the end result may not be exactly what I wanted, I live a more full life now because I allowed myself to hear hard things. And I think that's...
I allowed myself to hear hard things, but criticism, that we can't do. I can't have anyone dissenting, naysaying, asking questions, or just in general not understanding what I'm saying. Like, they are not allowed to have any kind of experience that is counter to my own experience. I can't listen to any of that. If any of that pops up, I have to delete it out of my life instantaneously and block whoever it was who said it, because I don't want them ever popping back up again in the off chance that they might challenge me. Can't have that.
The thing I take from all of this, I don't regret it. I don't regret it. I don't feel like I wish I didn't know.
Okay.
Because at least now life makes a little bit more sense. And at least now I have resolved the issues I
Edwin
can't
doesn't
resolve.
need to freak
right?
out. We're done with
Sometimes
Edwin freaking out.
there is no magical solution.
Edwin,
to
stop
health fix.
freaking out.
Sometimes it's
Put
about
some clothes
persevering
on,
and
my
learning
dude.
to adapt. And I think that's where I'm at right now. And so it's kind of a hard situation to be in, to have to tell this story at this point, because the reality is there may never be a finite end to this. But at least I know, and at least I have people around me
Oh, there will be an end to it. Whether that happens when you're 45 or 50 is another story, but there will be an end.
who are supporting me. And I think that the thing that really clicked for me is I saw my parents maybe a couple weeks ago, and they were literally all on the weight loss train most of my life. And just having my dad look at me and finally go, I finally get it. He's like, I finally get it. And I'm sorry, I didn't listen to you. And I'm just like, maybe this story will help people see people in bigger bodies a little bit different. And again, it's none of my business what your health is. It's none of my business whether you're healthy or unhealthy. And the reality is I don't have the information to make that decision from someone. And if I can pass on a story that, competes with the norms that we're taught, maybe people will just be kinder to each other.
If I can pass on a story that contradicts all of the known medicine. Look, sometimes you do need to challenge established medicine, okay? Sometimes that really does happen. I need Erwin to quit being mean to my girl right now, though, because, I don't want them to get a divorce. And the game will do that. Sometimes you do actually need to challenge the norm, right? It needs to happen sometimes. But sometimes you're just making shit up so that you don't have to take responsibility for yourself. And that's what's happening here. Okay, this is my opinion. Anna doesn't want to have to take responsibility for her life anymore. She used to. There used to be a version of Anna that wanted to take control of her life, that wanted to lose weight, that was losing weight, that was becoming more active, that had a much more positive outlook on life. That Anna used to exist. I don't know what happened in 2015, but something major happened in 2015. All I'm hearing is Anna cannot be held responsible for anything wrong with her because she has special genes that no one else on the planet has, which not only makes her super special, but also makes all of the doctors want to work with her because she's super special, you guys. She is more terminally unique than you. And that's it. That's it. That's the end of the story. Anna has this genetic excuse that she thinks will work for everything. Because of these genes, she has lipedema. Because of these genes, she has, I don't know, what happened to the Hashimoto's diagnosis? It just vanished. Does she have Hashimoto's still, or is that part of the special obesity genes now? Nothing, no health issue that she has is even influenced slightly by the fact that she's obese. Therefore, nothing is her fault. Okay, I don't care anymore. But there's 30 seconds left. I don't give a shit. This has been. Here's my thing. If this is the introductory episode, because the next episode should be dropping tomorrow. Today's Tuesday. So we should have a new episode tomorrow. I'm mildly interested to listen to it because it will not be Anna. It'll be someone else. And I want to see what the actual format of this show is going to end up being like. So I am curious about that. But as far as I'm concerned right now, this is a pseudoscience show. It's pseudoscience through medical misinformation. They don't want to hear any dissent. They don't want to hear genuine questions. They don't want to hear anything negative about their show, to the point where they are hardcore curating this show, the comments to this show. Again, there is video, and Anna's showing little 30-second clips of it here and there on her Instagram, but they haven't posted the whole video. I would like to have seen the whole video, just because it would have been nice to be able to get a read on the nonverbal communication between the two of them, which is a term that I'm using now instead of body language because it's actually more accurate. Anyway, but I would have liked to have seen how the two of them are reacting to each other while the other one is talking. And I think maybe the reason why there's not as much video is because Anna just talks. This was an hour and 14 minutes long, and it was just Anna. At times you forget there was another person in this podcast, that there's a co-host to this show. And I kind of wonder if that's how the rest of these episodes are going to be like. Is Anna just going to talk over the host and just never give her a chance to the doctor, and just never give her a chance to talk? Anyway, So I guess my point is I'm interested in listening to the next episode. Will I be doing a review of it? Probably not. This took a lot. This is a very long reaction. I'm not looking forward to editing it. It's probably going to be pretty raw, an edit. I'm probably just going to take out the long pauses and just be like, screw it, for that. But anyway, all that being said, my personal opinion is this show is basically pseudoscience. It's medical pseudoscience. I am even more curious how these two people got connected and why the show got proposed. These are not the people I would turn to for any kind of medical advice. Shit, I don't even watch that much Dr. Mike, and I would recommend you go watch Dr. Mike. Like, I don't even watch him that much. Go watch Diary of a CEO. Go watch Andrew Huberman if you want medical talk, legitimate medical talk. And even then on those shows, they get people on there that I'm like, it's okay. But the hosts at least are engaged with their audience or engaged with their guests. They question things. They ask things. They ask for clarifications on things. Okay, so it's like, how a host is actually supposed to run a show. Anyway, there is not a damn thing I can say here that I didn't rant about at some point during this video. I hope the Sims weren't too distracting. I was kind of hoping they would distract me more so that this didn't take as long as it did, but here we are. I do apologize for the length of this, but I knew this was going to happen, which is why I was like, I got my water, I got my coffee, I got my Sims. This is how we're going to get through this. So here we are. If this is not the format you like, you probably won't see this again, to be perfectly honest with you, because I cannot, for the life of me, see me doing another one of these. But there is that. However, now that I have done it, I can go and I can watch other people's reactions to it. So if I do put up another video where I'm just kind of like interacting with other people's reactions to this, that will be it. And it will hopefully be my standard hour-long episode. But yeah, these are a lot. Anyway, thank you guys for watching and or listening, depending on which one you did. You let me know what you think down below. I guess since we're dealing with Irwin, who is like my absolute favorite Sim, by the way, go ahead and put an alien or an alien head or a spaceship down in the comment section down below, because again, Irwin is like my absolute favorite character. So there we have that, and that's all I got for you guys. I'm gonna go grab a bite to eat, get something that isn't caffeinated, just some more water, I think, and I have a live at 4, so I will see people at 4 o'clock. And again, hope you guys enjoyed this, but I gotta go. Bye!
This is my outro music. You can't copyright strike me because it's just me singing. This is my outro music. Thank you for watching. See you next time.